All right, welcome guys to the first podcast ever. I'm here with Freddie Darowitsch. All right,
Yep, that's me. How's
all right,
everybody doing? All right.
all right. So Freddie, what do you do?
So right now I'm a student. I go to Queens College. I'm in the SEYS program, which is Secondary Youth Services, I believe, and just gonna be a high school history teacher. Would like to teach American history, but open to global government. But right now I also work as the co-campaign manager for a city council race. It's
Nice.
happening in November. District 29, which is Rego Park, Forest Hills, Kew Gardens, and Richmond Hill.
Wow.
Yep.
So
So
I should give a little context. I met Freddie in AP Government with our teacher, Mrs. Selekia. So when you were there, I kind of thought of you as like an adjunct.
hmm
So that's what you were doing. You were getting like credits
yeah,
by sitting in a
so
class.
what you have to do to become a teacher is you have to observe in
Mm-hmm.
classes. And I mean, I've spoke to people, it literally does not help at all.
Doesn't.
Because no. Because when everybody's different, every teacher's different, everybody has
Yeah.
a different teaching style. The only way you really learn how to teach is when you get in front of the kids and you teach. So
Hmm.
observing, I mean, because every situation is different. So yeah, you have to do in your first year, you have to do 50 hours of
Hmm.
observations. Then in your second year, you have to do 100, and then you do student teaching, which that helps. But
Gotcha.
yeah,
So what did you pick up from student teaching?
so I didn't actually didn't. I do student teaching
Okay.
next semester, but I've taught a couple of lessons, and what I taught, well, I mean, what I taught was I taught history, I taught government,
Hmm.
and economics, and the biggest things that I picked up in on is there's gonna be silence.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I was always nervous of silence, but after talking to Mr. Verost, Mr. G, they said silence is okay because you have to let let the students think. You have to let
Yeah.
the students, understand what you're saying and give them a chance to answer.
Hmm.
Whenever there was 5 seconds of silence, I would immediately say something else because I'm thinking like, oh my god, like I'm doing a terrible
Like you
job.
have to compensate. Gotcha.
Exactly, yeah. Like,
Gotcha.
but you sometimes you need to cold call on students and like
Hmm.
they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
and you have to pressure them into just giving out an answer. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
one thing I learned.
It's a good idea. Yeah. The part what I realize on Zoom now,
hmm
silence is also a very different concept.
Yeah.
So like when you have silence on Zoom, it's not that they're thinking for the most part. It's like cognitive skills
Yeah, I
being
mean,
being worked.
also like with Zoom too, it could be like,
They're on their phone.
yeah, and is the
Yeah.
computer reconnecting? Like,
Exactly. That's true.
there's so many like
Hmm.
technical issues that students can get away with now.
Yeah. And it's also you need some time. Like there's a podcast that I listen to. His name is Jocko Willink.
Okay.
He's a former Navy SEAL commander.
hmm
He has all these anecdotes, just crazy stories, leadership skills, stuff like that. And when he speaks, like he has these really long pauses.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's a great aspect to
Yeah.
speech because you do need a pause.
No,
Yeah.
definitely, of course, and
Yeah.
plus, I think like who are the best speakers? Like preachers, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
And they have like long dramatic pauses.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's for the dramatic effect, but it's also, you think about it. You're rambling, you're rambling, you're rambling,
Mhm.
and then you pause. It kind of gives people like,
Suspense.
yeah, and a
Yeah.
brief 20 seconds to say like, oh, okay, he just said that, she just said that, he
Yeah.
bing, 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 bing. Okay, like I could put two and two together now.
Mhm.
So pauses, I mean, it's needed.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm really interested in is like day to day when
Mhm.
you're doing your council work. No, not council. It
Yeah,
is council.
city council, yeah.
City council.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you're co-manager.
Yes, I'm co-campaign manager. My
Nice.
good friend Ryan is the other campaign manager. He does more of the data stuff. He's a numbers guy. He's a genius.
That's great. It's good to
And
have one of those.
yes, he's like the numbers guy. And
Mhm.
like I say, besides the candidate, obviously, I kiss the babies, and he enables me to kiss the babies.
Gotcha,
He
gotcha.
tells me what babies to kiss, what babies that are gonna vote for us, so I have to kiss them.
Got you. Wait, is it good to kiss other babies from other parties? Trying to
I'm,
like.
yes, I mean, well, that's a big thing too. Is you have to branch out, reach over the aisle,
Mhm.
and work with who
Yeah.
the opposite party, the people that don't necessarily have your thoughts and have your state of mind. But listen, you got to work with everybody.
Yeah. So what areas, like what geographic are you working with?
Okay, so in the district, it's Forest Hills, Kew Gardens, Richmond Hill, and Rego Park. And
Mhm.
in that area, besides Richmond Hill, let's like leave Richmond Hill out of it. Those three areas, Rego Park, Kew Gardens, and Forest Hills, it's predominantly Jewish, Buharian Jewish, Orthodox Jewish,
Got it.
a lot of types of Jewish, and a lot of Democrats.
Got it.
But this is the thing: is that they're conservative Democrats. Reagan Democrats. They're not these Democrats like socialist, left-leaning, liberal Democrats.
And it's
Like,
not really often that we hear more of these conservative Democrats, right?
yes, it's not really
It's not
now.
popular either, right?
Unfortunately, it's not.
Got it.
Everybody wants to be like AOC in the squad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, but these Democrats that are in the district, they're conservative Democrats, and we respect them, and they respect us, and that's what we're gonna try to trigger. the last election that the current councilwoman, her name is Karen Koslowitz. The
Mhm.
last election, there was only 16,000 votes. All you need is 8,001 to win.
Yeah.
That's it.
Isn't it crazy how like grassroots, speaking of like in terms of just starting from the bottom, working your
Mhm.
way up, all we hear is celebrities talking about voting in local, no, in the presidential election,
Yeah.
but they never talk about local.
Well,
That's where change starts,
of
right?
of course that
Hmm.
it's all grassroots because listen, there was one issue, for example, with the campaign. There was a pothole on 100 in the district. There was I
Gotcha.
don't exactly remember,
Hmm.
but you call the city councilwoman, what happens? Absolutely nothing. You call your local leaders, what happens? Absolutely nothing. This pothole was 2 feet deep. It was a sinkhole.
Wow. How wide?
It was I'd say probably about half this table. So
Wow.
imagine we were watching cars just boom, boom, boom.
Damn.
If somebody
Yeah.
were to walk, you break your leg.
Hmm.
What happened now? Nothing.
Yeah.
So what did we have to do? My candidate, Mike Canigliaro, he got on the phone with people, got it fixed. It wasn't
Hmm.
fixed the right way. Got on the phone with the commissioner of the DEP, told them how to fix it the right way. He did it, and then now it's fixed.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and that's all grassroots stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, you can raise as much money as you want. You can talk about everything that you want to do, but it's all about action
Hmm.
and meeting the people,
Yeah.
knocking on doors, letting the people know who you are, and tell them like, listen, I live here, you live here.
Hmm.
We could do this together. That Republican, Democrat, Independent, no matter what. Listen, everybody wants a safe city. Everybody wants
Yep.
quality of life. Nobody wants to walk down the street, see tons of graffiti on the
Yep.
walls. These are common issues that we can, agree on.
Hmm.
So that's the whole thing. It's grassroots is key.
Yeah, it's a good point because like a lot of people they need someone to look to for help, and
Mhm.
obviously you don't want to just have one person in power because that's what we see right now in politics. It's so polarized, right?
Yep.
It's almost like a dictatorship. They're
Yeah.
fighting for the top piece, but the president is supposed to do what the constituents want.
Of course.
It's not his role. So I see Donald Trump, and yes, you may have your opinions and all that stuff, but what I'm realizing about the presidency, it's more of a seat now,
Yeah.
and has more power because of the bully pulpit, right?
Yep.
And their influence on the media and stuff like that. But
Of
it's
course.
really not serving its purpose. What I believe is to serve the people
Definitely.
because they have all these promises, these guarantees, never
Yep.
followed through with, and
Yep.
I feel like locally, it's a lot easier to follow through
Oh, of
because
course.
on a national scale, everyone has all these wants and needs, and because of the bureaucracy, because of democracy, it's not going to be as easy
Yeah.
because everyone's voice has to have a little piece.
Yeah.
But when it's local, you have way more say, and there should be someone like your candidate
Yep.
who should be able to get it done, make some calls, and do the right thing.
Definitely. Well, I mean, going back to like the president, for example, let's think about it. Listen, New York has different problems than Wyoming.
Hmm.
Wyoming has different problems than South Dakota. South Dakota has different problems than Miami. So when
Hmm.
you're the president, you have to try to address
Everything.
everybody.
Yeah.
Even though people are not going to vote for you, you still have to address them as well.
Mhm.
In a local election, I mean, you have a 5 neighborhood district that those are the problems you have to deal with, and most of the time they're in common. And I don't want to forget about Richmond Hill. Richmond Hill, it's a very culturally dense neighborhood that
Mhm.
is just a melting pot. So that's why I didn't mention them right away with the demographics. But no, when you're a council, state assembly, state senator, all these local elections, you are more in touch with the people
Yeah.
because you can go door to door. I mean, listen, it may take you a couple months to meet everybody,
Mhm.
but at least you could do it. It's not like you could go to California, New York, back and forth.
So how does cold calling work during coronavirus, or like right now? You can't. Do you still knock on doors, like literally, or do you mean that as
Okay.
like a?
Well, we
Okay.
didn't start knocking on doors yet. It's still early. It's the next council race is November 4th. So,
Mhm.
in politics, I've worked on Nicole Maliotakis's mayoral campaign
Mhm.
when she ran against De Blasio. By the way, congratulations to her. She just won a Senate no,
Kudos.
a House of Representatives a
Nice.
seat in Staten Island. But what you would do is in coronavirus, we have to figure that out. But normally, knock on doors, hand out campaign literature. I remember back in 2017 when she was running, you would literally stand on street corners just handing out palm cards. And they say Nicole Maliotakis back on. They say her issues, what
Gotcha.
she has, all
Mhm.
that. You could do that. We had phone banks. Hello, would you like to support the Republican Party? Can you support, our candidate? Blah blah blah.
Do
blah,
they work
blah.
out most times? Because I know
No.
myself, yeah. Like if someone calls
No.
me asking about a campaign, I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna hang up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was when I first started, I was a cold caller at the Queens County GOP, and I said, "Hello, I'm calling from the Queens County GOP. My name is Fred, and we would like to see if you would like to get active in the Republican Party." The guy answered, "Party? I would love to go to a party. What do you want to party? What do you want to drink?" And I'm like, "No, sir. Like it's the Republican Party. Politics." Is like, "Oh, Donald Trump," and I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, okay, goodbye." Half the time people
Yeah.
don't answer. They just hang up on you, but you got to do it.
Hmm.
Social media is a big thing now.
Yeah. So how do you guys reach out on those platforms? Do you have like ads and stuff, or do you just?
Yes, so eventually we will. Right now, since we're a little far way out, we're gonna have ads. Listen, we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page, we have a website, we have a Twitter. All these things are getting put together as we speak. We're making business cards and all that. So that's the biggest thing between and YouTube as well, live streaming. When we have a good work ethic, the whole team.
That's great.
So when other people are asleep, we're out. We were at this pothole at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Nice.
trying to get it fixed. We had a ruler in there. There's a Walgreens that people just walk in and they just take everything. They literally come in with a
They
gym bag.
steal?
They steal everything. And what can you do? The cops' hands are tied.
Yeah.
Because they catch them, they arrest them, they have to release them in an hour because of the bail reform laws. So
Wait, can you explain that a little further?
yeah, so the bail reform is basically like if you don't commit a crime with like a violent weapon, you're gonna get released with no bail.
Okay.
And that's not good at all.
So what if they have proof of the person stealing?
Don't matter.
They can, but if they want to press charges, that's different, right?
No. So the bail is like if you get arrested, you're still gonna have to go to court someday.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But
figured
you're
it.
just not gonna have to wait in jail. You'll
Got
just
it.
be released.
Mhm.
So the cops and this disrespect that the cops have been getting is ridiculous. I mean, you
Mhm.
seen the lady spit in the face of a cop
Yeah.
the other day. They feel like, listen, between bail reform, between God forbid me hurting somebody, me losing my job, my pension, my healthcare for my
Mhm.
family, I'm not even gonna touch anybody. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
get involved in this. And listen, I don't blame them. The power has been taken away. You've seen a couple years ago, the cops have turned our back on our mayor when he
Yeah,
was at
I
the
remember
funeral
that
on
because it
Myrtle
was a
Avenue.
shooting of a police officer,
Yep.
and they felt like there was no backing
Yeah.
from their
So
top
they
guy.
turned their back on them. Exactly. I mean, look, you see, there's been how many police commissioners already? Bill Bratton.
Yep.
This guy Shea.
Yep.
I believe there's been 2 more. Listen, it's because they're all puppets right now.
It used to be a term that was almost a decade long, right? Weren't they
Yeah,
lasting?
Ray Kelly. Yeah.
Exactly, and then it became 1 year, 2 years. It's
Yep.
turning into like the New York Giants, where
Exactly.
it's chaining management. I feel like
Unfortunately, yeah.
if you want successful management, you have to keep some kind of pace.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, without
Yeah.
a doubt. I mean, think about it. Like, let's say if you're a chef in a new
Mhm.
restaurant, you're obviously gonna have to get to know that restaurant. You're gonna have to get to know the people, how they like the food cooked.
Mhm.
You have to get to know the menu. You can't, go into a job for 6 months, and if you're not doing a good job, well, listen,
Yeah.
you got to get to know it. You
Yeah.
gotta how do I want to run my police department? And especially if you have the mayor micromanaging things,
Yeah.
doesn't help at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting arguments and stuff like that. But one thing that you did mention that I agree with is what's it called? So you need more power. You can't just not more power, more time.
Yeah.
To be effective.
Yeah.
So the thing about having a new regime coming in and trying to do something in 4 years in a presidency, which people talked about, is not enough time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's limiting enough to see what you're gonna get. Like,
Yeah.
You know how you have like the lame duck period
Mm-hmm.
when they basically do nothing.
Yep.
And in the beginning, when they're trying to get everything done, what's that period called when they're just signing?
The first 100 days, the
First 100 days,
honeymoon
yeah.
period.
Honeymoon.
There you
Yes.
go,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And that is that just like
History lesson.
is that to like people please at that point?
Well, that's like, well, you didn't really see it with Donald Trump, but because he's such a polarizing figure. But normally, back in the day, it's kind of like, okay, whoever won the presidency,
Mhm.
respect the office. Obviously, he's gonna put his bills forth, so let's put them into play and see how he does.
Mhm.
But now that things are so, Democrats are so left, the Republicans are so right, they don't do that anymore.
Got it. Yeah.
You won't see that.
I just think you need more time to really implement a policy.
Of course.
The thing is, what we have is like every term or 2 terms, because they might
Mhm.
go back to back, is like
Yeah.
Democrat, and then the nation decides to flip. We're going
Yeah.
Republican.
Yeah.
Republican, Democrat, back and forth. And what you do is you set up these policies, and the next guy repeals it and sets up his own.
Yeah.
Then he repeals the other one, and it just goes back and
It
forth.
does no help. And that's why they say the best way to judge a president is not during their term, it's the 4 years after their term.
Really,
Yeah. Because I mean, think about it. Like, if your policies are good,
they're gonna last.
they're gonna last no matter
Got it.
Democrat or Republican. Let's say I come into office, like Fred's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
I do this, and then somebody of the opposing party comes in. They say, you know what? I actually can't change those policies because they're pretty good.
Mhm.
So that's what it is. I mean, if you have good ideas, good policies, good agendas, they'll last.
Mhm.
But no, you're 100% right. You have Trump, then you had Obama for 2 years, then you had Bush, then you had Clinton.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom.
The thing is, you need more bipartisan compromise. Because all we see now is legislation just one way,
Yep.
and they're shooting for this agenda, or like
Yep.
they make these what's the word when they paint a picture
Yeah.
of like the entire side, and their goal is to try to get this group of people to
Yeah.
vote the way they
Well,
want to.
there's no unity, and
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem. I mean, you have the Republicans that hate the Democrats and the Democrats that hate the
Mhm.
Republicans. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Listen, we all live in this country. We all want what's best. Listen, we may have different opinions on how to govern, on what policies to put in place, but at the end of the day, we're all American.
It's
You know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And we should all have one goal, and that's the better for the nation. Like no matter who
Yeah.
wins this election, I know it's crazy. Joe Biden was announced yesterday. It's gonna go to the courts.
Yeah. By the
whatever.
way, Al Gore, wasn't he the president
Yep.
for
Yesterday.
36 days,
Yep,
right?
yesterday it was 20 years since I believe.
Yeah.
20 years yesterday.
When they flipped the decision, right? And that was against Bush.
Yep.
Yep.
In Florida.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Yes, the Supreme Court case, right?
Yep, the Supreme Court. It was a 5-4 decision.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, if this election goes to the Supreme Court, it's going to be either a 6-4 or a 5-4 because you never know how Roberts is going to go.
Yeah.
But whoever wins, you just want the best for the country. And
That's
you want
true.
a peaceful transition. This no matter what side, the rioting, the looting, no matter what side you're on, it's just not good. It doesn't make us look good.
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm just gonna close this door.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
The dog barking. All right, so where were we?
Oh, just basically saying that no matter what happens, you want the best for the country.
Mhm.
I mean, look, we may disagree on policies, but you definitely want the best for the country.
Yeah, but how do you
100%.
create a policy when there's so much diversion? No, not diversion. Like, well, yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's
well,
apart from each other.
that's the thing is that okay, let's say if the court cases don't go well for Donald Trump, Joe Biden will obviously be president. Congratulate him, obviously, but you have the Republicans who are projected to control the Senate. They picked up some seats in the House, but not enough for a majority. So you have a Democratic president, Republican Senate, and then a Democratic House.
Gotcha.
That means nothing is going to be done because in order to pass a bill, you need both houses of approval. Republicans are going to try to block everything. And I mean, listen, I don't blame them, but it's not good. It's political gridlock. You need to be able to work together. I mean, if you look at JFK, even LBJ, if you look at FDR, these things were done unilaterally. They were done with bipartisan representation. I mean, Ronald Reagan worked with the Democrats. Bill Clinton worked with the Republicans.
Yeah.
Richard Nixon worked with the Democrats. And then somewhere along the lines, it just fell apart. And now everybody dislikes everybody where it's politics. It's not personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me and you
It's becoming too personal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I believe it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg who, God
rest in
rest her
peace.
soul.
Yeah.
She was on the left side. And Judge Scalia, Supreme Court Justice Scalia, who, God rest his soul as well, on pure constitutionalists on the right side of politics, they're best friends.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Yeah, they were best friends. They talked every single night. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You have your political discussions. You agree to disagree, and that's it. You can still be friendly outside of politics, but it's going away now. It's like impossible.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just think that moving forward, if there would be an easier way to close the gap, but I feel like this trend began with social media. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, definitely, of course. Because listen, think about it. 30 years ago, if something happened, you didn't have your phone to record.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Nobody knew instantly.
Now there's so many sources. You don't know who to believe.
That's it.
I don't watch the news because right now I go on social media. All I see is everyone posting about politics, their opinions.
Yep. And of course, during the election, everybody turns into the Albert Einstein. Everybody's the smartest person. Everybody's Carl.
Everyone knows about everything, right? And they're like 13-year-olds. Half of them never paid attention. They got a 40 in social studies, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they weren't in my class, but it's like the same thing with like if there's ever a big court case, or like a landmark thing. Like remember Casey Anthony? You might have been too. Casey Anthony.
Yeah,
everybody's a lawyer now.
Yeah,
everybody knows the a lawyer or a scientist with the blood and the enzymes didn't match. It's like come on, like give it up. But
it's the educated public,
No, definitely. You don't know who to believe anymore because you have some news stations that are pushing one bias. You have another news station.
Oh, absolutely, and it's obvious.
Bias.
It's obvious, and they come to conclusions about who's winning what state almost immediately.
Yeah,
like we've already confirmed California. Like I think as soon as the polling closed, confirmed Democrat.
Yeah,
and they weren't even done counting the ballots.
Well, same thing with New York too.
Yeah,
but
well, New York, I looked at the projection and I realized it's just the city that's blue.
Oh yeah, that's
New York State is red.
That's it. Listen, you have Queens, and there's pockets of Queens that are red. There's pockets of Queens that are
Staten Island is red, right?
Yeah, Staten Island is cold stone red.
Gotcha.
Look, we're in a pocket right now. Middle Village is red.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
Middle Village. If you look,
no, that makes sense. That does make sense.
Middle Village, some parts of Glendale, Bayside, Whitestone, some of Queens Village, mostly red, mostly red. But it's Queens as a whole blue, the Bronx blue, Manhattan blue, and then you have like Yonkers, like a little bit of Westchester, they're all blue. But then if you go up, all red.
Yeah.
Nassau, Suffolk, all red.
The burbs, everything. Red.
Oh yeah, all red, all red.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem is these city centers have so much power because yes, they have a lot of people in them. I agree.
Yeah,
But
density. Yeah.
if you look at New York State as a whole, it's huge. And then you see right in the middle, right in between Long Island and right in between upstate, it's this pocket of blue. And
Hmm.
that's what decides the election. It's the same thing in California with
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
So going back to the electoral college, and a lot of people have problems with this
Yeah.
because because the electoral college was created during slavery times, right?
Yep.
Slavery.
Yep.
And do you remember the roots? Also, it was for fair representation
Yeah.
because part of your First Amendment right is to have freedom of speech, but also has to be equal to someone else's.
Yep.
So if you're in a state that's not as populated as another one,
Yep.
they want to give you a fair amount of say
Definitely.
as they are. 'Cause
Definitely.
part of it is because the majority in democracy on paper is probably sound.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone has a voice and everyone gets what they want. Obviously, in real life terms, that's not realistic
No, of course.
because
Not.
everyone has their wants and needs, and like you were saying on a national scale, it's so
Yeah.
much harder to
Of
apply
course.
rules that work for Florida but might conflict with Oregon,
Yeah,
or something like that. It's
definitely.
a lot different. Even though those two are kind of like on their own in their own little world.
Yeah.
Florida and Oregon right now are definitely crazy.
Yeah.
But the thing about the majority winning is that democracy, the majority will dominate, and
Yeah.
most times they will go on a streak of dominating unless some way they f up.
Yeah.
And then it might switch, and naturally it does happen because you have like the turning and like the changing of
Yeah.
parties and stuff like that. But you do have to empower the minority. The thing is, we now have an America with a minority majority. So now it's changing, and
Yeah.
now that people are able to uplift their voice, and it's a lot easier to communicate.
Yep.
Do you think we still need the electoral college?
Oh, I think you need it without a doubt because
Yeah.
if you think about it, look, like you said, everybody should have equal. Everybody should have a say.
Mhm.
Look, I mean, obviously you have to give California, Texas, Florida, New York, these states with huge populations. You have to give them more say
points,
because
respectfully, yeah.
yeah, because they have more people in them. But if you would abolish the electoral college, then New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, they would decide the election every single time.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. So you can't necessarily abolish the electoral college because what about the Wyoming? What about
The farmers, because
yeah,
we're talking about
Idaho,
urban. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't they get a say? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
That's a good point.
their million votes is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
When there's tens of millions of votes just in one borough in New York.
Yeah. The thing that some people are concerned with is that they feel like their vote counts less. So if they vote in New York City, their chance of swinging their state is a
Yeah.
lot less than someone that lives in Arkansas
Yeah.
or Nevada.
Yeah.
And what's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, listen, it makes I understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
So my thing is vote local then.
Okay.
If you want to see change, vote local.
Yeah.
And always vote. There's people I get like almost offended when people say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote because I don't like either candidate," which I get, and my vote doesn't matter. People died for your right to vote. There's soldiers fighting, currently in
Yeah.
other countries right now.
And there's people dying
Yeah.
in other countries wishing to
willing
get
vote.
in.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like you always should vote no matter what because that's what we fought for in the American Revolution. We wanted representation. We wanted the ability to vote.
I feel like there's a little bit of like a complex there because sometimes it's choosing between worse and worser or the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if someone decides that they don't want to make a choice, or silence sometimes is a better option.
Yeah, well,
maybe not in politics.
Yeah.
Because you do want change, and
course.
if you want change catered to your liking,
Yeah.
then you should obviously speak.
Yeah.
You should vocalize. But I think sometimes choosing between maybe it's like an using an analogy, it's like an argument between your parents. Like
Yeah.
you don't want to choose a side.
Yeah, of course.
Because sometimes there's never a winner.
Yeah.
If you're choosing a side, you're definitely legitimizing what's happening. So you're
Definitely.
making it more official that
Yeah.
that we're gonna polarize ourselves and we're just gonna separate and run the opposite direction.
That's a great example. But the difference is when you choose a side between your parents, one of them is going to know which side you're choosing. When you're at the ballot box, it's only you. You know what I mean? It's only you. So you want to vote for Joe Biden, you want to vote for Donald Trump. You don't like either of them. Listen, there's a libertarian candidate. There's a fill-in.
Yeah.
I filled in, for judges. I filled in people. Just it doesn't matter. You just go vote.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
you said, people
Especially local.
Yeah, definitely local because if you want to see real change, you vote local.
Mhm.
Real change, you'll see it in your neighborhood. You'll see it in in your district.
And
you'll
that
see it on
creates
your streets.
politicians that one day
Yeah.
move up to the state
Of
or
course.
maybe the national scale.
Of course, definitely. You have to you have to start somewhere.
That's
the
true.
whole thing. And who knows? You may say, "Oh, he's only a city councilman or he's only state assembly." Well, maybe he'll win his next race and he'll become something bigger. Maybe he'll win his next race. Then he'll run for mayor.
Yeah.
Then he'll run for governor. Then she'll be, a congressman. Then she'll run for president.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think involving your community a lot more definitely has a difference. And I feel like around Middle Village, I've spoken with Barnwell.
Brian Barnwell.
Yeah, Brian Barnwell, Senator Adabo,
Okay.
and there's a couple more that we've worked with, and they've been really helpful.
Yeah.
A lot. And my sister, she helps out with he works around Juniper. I'm forgetting his name. I'm blanking. It'll come back to me. But
Robert Holden?
Holden, yeah, yeah.
Great guy.
I've met him a bunch of times. He's so helpful. I feel like his name just escaped me right now. But he's helped out a lot, especially like with the Boy Scouts, which I was involved with. Still am, even though I've aged out and stuff like that. So Eagle Scout now. But they've helped out a lot. And whether it comes to public service projects, especially for Eagle Scout, it's one of the requirements. You have to help out your community. You have to do a service project, so you could team up with the parks or with someone local like him. And they have their string. They have their whole list of connections that they could involve you with and help you out. And they're always willing to donate.
Definitely.
And that's great because it recircles, you know? And hopefully, I feel like it did to myself. It motivates you to want to encourage more people to get involved, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, do you see yourself becoming the same thing as your congressman or councilman?
I would love to. But those 3 guys you mentioned there, I mean, those guys, perfect examples. Involved in the community, care about their constituents.
Yeah.
They see an issue, you call them, odds are it's gonna get fixed. You know, I mean, I know Councilman Holden not well, but I've met him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
The Mike Canigliaro, the person I'm working for, is friends with him. And you know, I know that these 3 guys that you just mentioned, Brian Warrenwell, Senator Adabo, and Councilman Holden, they're great guys. They really are. And they care about this community.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that they can all agree on, is that they care about this community. But for me, listen, I would love to. I think that, you know, I'm a moderate. I could understand both sides, and I could get in touch with both sides. I think people have to work together to make change.
Yeah.
You know, like I said before, you want safe streets. You don't want to, God forbid, walk down and get mugged or something like that. You don't want to see graffiti on the walls. You don't want to see, you know, huge sinkholes taking over, you know, the streets. You don't want to see. You want to see responsibility. You cannot disagree on those things. Like, if you walk down the street and say, "Would you want safe streets?" Everybody's gonna say yes.
Yeah.
You know,
so
it's clear.
I think that really combats the idea of like defunding the police or abolishing. Number one, I understand if you want to reappropriate the funds to a smarter cause, or you definitely want to change the regimen of training schedules and making it more official. Absolutely. But abolishing police, that is anarchy. And
it's ridiculous.
I think that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's by far the dumbest thing ever. I mean, the defund the police movement, it's like so stupid. It makes absolutely no sense. Listen, in a bunch of apples, there's always going to be not good ones. And there's a saying that no good cop nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop, because it makes them look bad.
Exactly.
You know, not all cops are bad. You know, there's a select few that, you know, unfortunately are not, you know, fit enough to be on the, you know, wear the shield. But instead of defunding, you know, there's, I'm sure, retraining purposes. There's the, you know, videos, there's classes, there's tons of things that can be done.
They can be done, but they don't. That's the issue, because there's a lot of stuff they can allocate to, but they don't. And I know officers that have to pay for their own shooting. Once a year, they have a test at the range. They have to pay for their practices every other time. If they want to, they have to take out their own time. So, like, when they're not at work, they have to go with their buddies and go to the shooting range and practice. They got to purchase their own rounds. The time in there, they have to schedule themselves. They have to pay for it themselves. Yeah. And NYPD has billions of dollars.
Oh, of course.
And where is it all being pushed to? I don't know, obviously.
I mean, I don't know either, but...
Exactly, yeah.
Well, you mentioned a key thing is that it can be done, but it's not. And if you look at, you know, one of my biggest theories why is because we have this thing in the country right now where it's love or hate.
Yeah.
There's no middle. Either you love either you're 100% behind the blue, back the blue, which I am, don't get me wrong.
Or you support Black Lives.
Or you support these movements that you know, want to defund the police, you know, hate the police, all that stuff. There's no middle where you can say, like, okay, look, I see what you're saying. I see what they're saying. Let's come together. Let's not defund the police. You know, let's uplift these groups that are also trying to vocalize. Let's support peaceful protest. But also, if you want something, you know, you have an idea of what the police can do. Tell your local official, vote local, and maybe we can retrain the police. Tell the police, don't defund them. Don't take power away. Empower them. Give them power in order to make the good changes that need to be done.
Yeah, I feel like in New York City especially, when you give more leeway, or especially just in an urban area in general, when it controls itself, I think we did see this like in the 90s and the 70s and stuff like that. There was a lot of chaos, but it was controlled chaos. And I'm talking about like the mob right now. See, when the cops weren't as powerful, the streets took it upon themselves to regulate. And you see this in Compton or like in other areas across on the West Coast. Obviously now the police are more in power and they're more official. But back then, the reason why there was gangs and mobs and stuff like that was to control your community.
Of course.
And yes, the crime rates were lower. But at the same time, if you effed up, you paid the price,
Definitely.
and there was no going back. You know?
Definitely. I think there was a story in California that said it was like a Hell's Angels, like that biker gang.
Yeah.
There was like a bar, and they all used to hang out there, and nothing went wrong there.
Yeah.
Because they knew that if you
They
know,
controlled the chaos.
yeah, if you like, let's say if you rob a lady, you rob her purse right there, those guys are gonna come out and beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's almost like it's not vigilantism, but it almost is. You know,
Mhm.
it's like, listen, the city has turned on our back. The city has turned on us. You know, the state has not given us any power. We're gonna have to take it on
Mhm.
our own. So I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I feel like coming from a kid born in Queens, you as well,
Mhm.
my friend group is the most diverse thing I've ever seen.
Oh, without a doubt.
If you look at a palette of colors, I mean, I could write a name for each one of my
Without a
friends
doubt,
that
yep.
belongs to that list. So when I hear people polarizing, like you said, the love and hate, it's a great comparison
Yep.
because it's so accurate.
Mhm.
And all I see is people saying like, you cannot support Black Lives Matter. And for one, I have black friends.
Yeah.
So I can say the statement Black Lives Matter because I believe that a black life matters,
Of
you know?
course.
And I also believe that not all cops are not bad.
Yep.
Because I'm related to people that are in the force or great friends with people that are retired or still in the force.
Yep.
And I know genuine people.
Yep.
And I know great black people and I know great cops. And
Yep.
there's no reason why you should have to be on one side or the other.
Yeah.
And I don't also agree with people like this people who make the safe opinions, you know.
Yeah. Of
They make
course.
safe statements. I don't care who wins.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle for everything.
Mhm.
It's really safe. And it's also safe right now to just agree with the media.
Yeah.
And the media obviously right now is very socialist or it's pushing towards a democratic
Unfortunately.
side, yes. And most people, I feel like it's so safe to have an opinion that
Yeah.
agrees with the status quo.
Oh, of course.
And I don't think there's any bravery or courageous act in that, you know?
Yeah.
It's just playing it easy and just not losing your money, you know?
Definitely. I mean, look, humans can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
So when people say like, "Oh, you can't you can't support Black Lives Matter and you can't support the cops at the same time. You can't support this and support this at the same time." Why not?
Mm-hmm.
I have a mind. I went to school just like everybody else.
Yeah.
We all went to high school.
Paid attention.
Paid attention.
Yeah.
You know, why can't we do these things?
Mhm.
Why can't we support both groups? Yeah, of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to support the police too. Of course. I mean, listen, you take away the cops, there's going to be anarchy.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be anarchy.
Yeah. We also don't want to empower them to a point where they feel like, because once again, it's a job that has power entails.
Of
You know,
course.
power entailed in it. So when people sign up for jobs like that, or like there's people that are crazy that want to sign up for the military, you know,
Yeah.
they go to the army because they feel like they're going to receive a position of leadership
Mhm.
that empowers them, and it definitely caters to their ego.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing they have to pay attention to. So yes, that's definitely one thing that can happen, and it happens with the police. Except you don't want to empower them to a point where they feel like they're invincible. They have
Yeah.
to be regulated and checked and treated like civilians because they are at the same time. And I feel like if you're wearing that badge, and
Yeah.
I know people who wear the badge that consider themselves even more of not a risk, but they feel like the penalties should be held harder on anyone who holds the badge. And I definitely agree with that.
No, I agree 100% because I mean, look, if you are giving somebody the power to police,
Mhm.
the power to, you know, even in the military, the power to protect,
Mhm.
you have to hold those guys to a higher standard because listen, they're better than us. They're
Yeah.
trained better than us. They're not normal civilians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there has to be a higher standard for
Yeah.
those guys, 100%. But what you said, I think one of the biggest things is a check. You just said it, a check. And I think when there's absolute rule or absolute anything, there always needs to be check.
Mhm.
That's why our democracy is so great because we have, you know, checks and balances. And I think that that's such
Yeah.
a key thing. And it makes people have to be political operators, you know, have to get suave and have to move through the House and have to, you know, oh, is this going to pass the House? Is it going to pass the Senate? You know, oh, is it going to get disqualified in the Supreme Court? Those are all checks. And
Yeah.
we need those things because
That's a good point.
when you have a one-party rule, no matter in whether you support it or you don't, it leads to corruption.
Mhm.
It leads to, you know, bigotry. It leads to just too much power on one side.
Yeah.
So checks are key.
Yeah, one example I can remember that is remember Boss Tweed in
Oh,
New
yeah.
York when the parties,
Yeah.
the political parties,
Of course.
it was political machines, and they were just getting people jobs. As long as you affiliate with us, we're gonna
Yep.
hook you up, and they did.
That's it.
And
yeah.
New York was just uprooted, you know.
Yep,
It's
definitely.
disgusting.
It's listen, you have guys that have been in politics for 40 years.
Mhm.
It's not the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
You know, look, I'm in big favor of term limits on everything. Term limits on everything. You know, you could be president for 8 years. Why should you be able to be governor for X amount of years? Why should you be able to be state
it
senator?
should
for X
apply
amount
to
of years?
all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got guys in Congress for 35 years, 30 years that never held another job besides being a politician.
And they're bringing in the cash.
Yep, that's right.
I think it does come with a standard because they are definitely professionals in what they do,
Mm-hmm.
but there does tend to a laziness
Yeah,
factor,
of
you
course.
know? And they just it's not complacency, but they're comfortable.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, look, you have a guy, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. I disagree with her literally on almost everything she says. But what you have to give her credit for is she was going up against Joe Crowley, who has been there forever. He's a Cold Stone Democrat. He's been there forever. He got comfortable. He kept winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went door to door. She knew everybody in that district. She grassroots campaigned to the most. And that's how you unseat somebody like that. I mean, look, George Washington didn't want, our founding fathers didn't want career politicians because it doesn't work out, because it breeds corruption, it breeds complacency. Listen, I get to sit in this chair for 40 years. I don't have to do anything because I know I'm going to get voted in anyway.
Yeah. And the incumbency rate, especially for senators, is like 90%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So like Charles Schumer, is that his name? Chuck Schumer?
Charles, yeah.
Yeah. He's been in there for more than a decade, right?
Yeah. Oh,
maybe several.
Yeah.
And his incumbency rate is like, well, right now it's almost 100%.
Yep.
And I don't think he's ever had to face certain hardships that other people do in states that are really trying. And it's so different like that. But one thing I like that you brought up is that George Washington, when he hands over the power, I went to Brian Barnwell's office once, and we were doing a thing over there with helping around the neighborhood and stuff like that.
Yep.
And he has this giant picture on the wall, and it's when Washington is handing over the papers.
Yeah.
And I think it was at the Treaty of Paris, or was this not his farewell?
What do you mean he was handing over the papers?
When he hands over the document to, I think it might have been the U.S. Congress.
Okay.
I think he handed it over. This is after he beat England, right? Britain.
Oh, it was probably in like maybe the Constitutional Convention.
That was probably it. Yeah. And he hands over the power, and he could have been king.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then he could have restarted the exact issue
Yep.
that was happening. So basically, Great Britain comes, they colonize,
Yep.
and they have a king, and this system of, what's it called again?
Monarchy, mercantilism, monarchy.
Mercantilism, yeah, with the mother country. And he could have just restarted it.
Yeah, of
And
course.
everything we did coming up to that point, he could have just ended it.
Yeah.
He could have wiped the slate clean,
Well,
but he didn't.
That's when, he didn't even want to be president, first
Mhm.
off. Remember, he had that disaster of the Articles of Confederation. And he didn't even want to be president. And then they said, like, after his 8 years, they were like, what do you mean you're, like, not going to be here?
And he's like, I'm done. I think it should be passed on.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. And that's why when people say, oh, who's the best president ever? I think it's George Washington, 100%. Because if you look, listen, he was the first.
Yeah.
And what he accomplished, what he did was he steered a country in the right direction. He was the first president to leave office after 8 years. He was
So
the
he's
first.
resigning power.
Yes, he's giving away power.
That's the
Not-
ultimate
yeah.
sacrifice, yeah.
He was the first president, obviously first president, but he had a presidential cabinet, secretary of this, department, secretary.
That's
of
right,
this,
yeah. He
secretary of that.
began that.
Yeah.
And it's not official, right? Those are not written in the
No,
Constitution.
well, no, they're not.
Yeah.
And that's the craziest thing is like, look at the foresight that he had.
And it's still applicable today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why what the founding fathers were geniuses
Mhm.
because they're writing in the Constitution what they did set precedent for hundreds of years to come.
So this brings up the conversation between original intent of the
Mhm.
Constitution
Yeah.
and the current perception.
Yes, definitely.
So you have George Washington who owned slaves, and people are saying that that may conflict with his intent on his writing, because we know the Constitution and law itself is just loophole after loophole, and part of playing the game is
Definitely.
learning the ins and outs.
Yes.
Right. And they're saying maybe the way they worded it, because when they said all men are equal,
Yeah.
by men they considered only white men,
Of
and
course.
that because at the time black men weren't considered even humans, or
Yes.
they were 3/5 of a man.
Yep.
And now it's way different, as it should be, right?
Yep.
Each man and woman. So now it's just not men and women are created. It's not just men that are created equal. It's
Yeah.
men and women.
Yeah.
And it applies to everyone.
Yes.
And how do you differentiate the intent or his background? So for an example, like let's say like R. Kelly, people say you can't enjoy his music
Mm-hmm.
because of what he did.
Yeah.
But can you separate the two? Do you think you can?
Well, I think that on most issues you can. On most issues you can. I mean, but listen, it's all about personal preference, really.
Mhm.
When it comes to the R. Kelly situation, it's all about personal preference. I mean, look, who am I to tell you what kind of music you can listen to and who you can't? Look,
Yeah.
what he did and allegedly, is disgusting.
Mhm.
And, no human being should do that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna walk around, Juniper Park and say, "Don't listen to R. Kelly." Listen, that's up to you.
So you think you can separate the two?
I think when it comes to personal preference, yeah. But going back to George Washington, I think that you can't. That's the way the country was then. Like, slavery, unfortunately, was a huge part of the economy. It was the economy. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate and it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But you can't judge them for being slave owners because that's like the way life was. You know what I mean? Like, it's unfortunate. You can't judge a man for his past sins, especially during that time. So, when people want to tear down statues and all that stuff, I just, you're deleting history. Look, I get it. The Confederate statues, of course, they lost. There shouldn't be statues. They lost.
Mm-hmm.
But you get a guy like Abe Lincoln. Like, I believe there was like a couple months ago, people wanted to tear down Abe Lincoln's statue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense.
So those people at the time, during that convention,
Yeah.
You have Benjamin Franklin, the grandfather of the Constitution.
Yep.
He was an enlightened thinker. He disagreed with slavery.
Yep.
He started off as a bookkeeper, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or it was like making shoes, something like that. It was in those small shops with his
Mhm.
father. Yeah, his father, he had like a printing press. I think
Yeah.
it was like a letter kind of thing. And he worked his way up, became educated, and he eventually he became the ambassador with France, right?
Mhm.
And then he lived in France for a little, right? Something like that.
I believe that was Thomas Jefferson.
It was?
Yeah.
So all right. So I do know that his power as an ambassador was definitely a great influence.
Yeah.
But he disagreed with slavery completely.
Mhm.
And he advocated against it.
Yeah.
And there's people saying that like maybe even though he wasn't president, he might just be one of the most influential people in America's time.
Well, that's the thing too. Is, I mean, look, just because you don't have office, you could be influential. That's the biggest thing too. You see now is, look at, for example, like Kim Kardashian. How influential she is. I mean, I think she just said the other day, like, she could get paid more to make one post on Instagram than she would working a whole season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about influence.
Millions,
I mean,
yeah.
You see these YouTubers that
Or
literally-
Kanye West.
Yeah,
her
Kanye
husband,
West, yeah. You see these YouTubers that just make videos of like them eating a Popeye's chicken sandwich, and
ASMR.
they're getting paid, millions of dollars.
Mhm.
Like, so
Yeah.
if you want to talk about, and the youth, unfortunately, believes them with everything they say.
Yeah.
These kids, they look up to these people, and I'm not, some are great people, I'm sure, but why don't you look up to your local leaders? Look up to your teachers. Look up to your firemen. Look up to your police. Look up to.
I think especially with teachers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
There's some teachers that don't get enough credit.
of course,
doing their
definitely,
job,
of course. I mean,
Mhm.
look, I'm a little biased because I want to be a teacher, but you're molding the youth.
You are.
You
No,
know,
100%.
You never know who's in your classroom. There could be a CEO in your class, a future CEO, a
Mhm.
future business owner, a future local official, a future president. You never know. You're
Yeah.
molding these kids, from day one. Who knows what they're gonna be in 20
Yeah.
plus years?
One thing I don't agree with is that like the bias some teachers show,
Mhm.
and they make it obvious
Oh, of
sometimes,
course.
and they definitely indicate or they try to get you to answer a question or a prompt
Mhm.
in the way that they want to. And yes, you can play the cards right.
Yeah.
And you can answer the way they want you to.
Yeah.
So you get a better grade.
Yeah.
But for me, I've never been that way.
Yeah.
I will sacrifice my grade if I have to uphold my opinion
Yeah.
or my views because I feel like it's worth fighting for.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, you see that more in college.
Yeah.
And that it's just ridiculous. I mean, you have professors that don't want you to speak out your views. They want you to only say yes. If you do speak out, if you do criticize them, then your grade, you're getting an F. And it should not be that way. You should be taught the facts.
Yeah. As long as you could use the facts. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's relevant.
The way that I think of things is like, look, I'm going to present the facts to you. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to help you understand. What you do with them is your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
More power to you. I'm glad that you're educated enough to develop a thinking process and that you want to do these. You want to make a decision on how you want to live your life.
Mhm.
I know I did my job. I presented you the facts. I did what I can. Now it's up to you.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you pour somebody a glass of water. Do you want to drink it? Do you want to spill it? That's up to you. I know that I poured the glass of water. I did enough. Now it's up to you. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Definitely. The college it's in itself, it's ridiculous.
I think giving people the resources to make their own decision is definitely important. And right now, I go to Baruch. It's a
Mhm.
CUNY school.
Yep.
And my English professor is doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Because he gives us these outlets, and we've been going over Brent Staples.
Mhm.
He's he writes for the New York Times, and although it might sound biased, he writes about like his anecdotes as a black man. So he talks about being in the atmosphere of New York City and people locking the doors when he's walking down the street in their car.
Yeah.
Or a white woman at night running away from him
Hmm.
because he's just walking down the same street and he
Yeah.
happens to be 30 feet behind him.
Mhm.
And it, like when we use this stuff, we add context to what we're saying, but at the same time, my professor allows me to create a claim or a thesis
Yeah.
where I'm saying, or one of the ones I took on recently was that as a white man, I'm not victimized in a way, but I've become not necessarily an opponent either, but almost as like a threat.
Yeah.
And like I've been painted as a different picture than I really am.
Yeah.
Or most people expect this white guy from. It doesn't even matter. Just because I'm white,
Mhm.
first thing they assume you vote for Trump.
Yeah. Oh,
Trump
of course.
supporter,
Of
you're a
course.
Republican,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm teaching, not teaching, but I'm trying to inform other people that just because I'm white doesn't define a lot about me. Because
Yeah.
it definitely comes down to character, your upbringing,
Yeah.
and even though upbringing may change, because like sometimes people go their own route,
Yeah.
and your parents' influence might be dropped off, and they decide to take their own road.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's a difference between being fitting into a category,
Yeah.
especially like the way the media does it, because it's either like right now you're either just white or you're some other thing,
Yeah.
and it's so polarizing.
Yeah.
Because for me, I really identify with my culture,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm Sicilian, and
Yeah.
my Sicilian views may conflict with politics because it doesn't stem from that.
Yeah.
It's really about just respect, discipline, and stuff like that. And I feel like I could apply it. And when I'm thinking in terms of politics, it might go both ways.
Mhm.
So, in terms of discipline and stuff like that, I
Yeah.
feel like we need police,
Oh, of
and
course.
we need control, and I also believe we need incentive,
Yep.
which might move towards the capitalist side.
Yeah.
But at the same time, one of the things that really surprised me in the summer, I was working at Parks Department as a lifeguard,
Okay.
and the Parks Department, their job was to give away masks for free.
Yeah.
And I was amazed, and I was like, this is New York, and it's America.
Yeah.
First of all, nothing's free.
Yeah.
Especially, and I was like, you know what? It's really great that they're giving away masks for free, because now this is something that actually should be used for taxpayer money.
Yeah.
To be given out, because it's stopping a virus. And I was like,
100%.
I'm so used to Americans having to just do it on their own. Or New York, the hustle and bustle. It's all about just grind, get it done,
Yep.
and keep moving forward. But that's a side of democracy, or maybe even not slightly socialist, but it has certain factors that definitely fit into
Yeah,
that
of
area.
course, giving something out for free.
But it's important, and you
Yeah.
need that. And we definitely need more of an incentive on the right side
Yep.
to do it yourself. But at the same time, if we can help each other out, giving away masks for free,
Yeah.
or affirmative action definitely helps.
Mhm.
And I feel like it encourages people to help out even further.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the way that I look at things is, let's do things, let's pass legislation, let's put things into law.
Mhm.
That's just common sense.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Forget about left, right, center, common sense.
Mhm.
Like you said, giving out masks for free. It's like, well, I'm sure people were complaining like, oh, my taxpayer dollars are going to these masks, these stupid masks.
And they end up
people
on the
are getting them for
floor,
free."
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like, look, it's common sense. There's a virus going around. It's a proven fact that these masks, will at least help you protect yourself and
Mhm.
protect others. So, yeah, if the city wants to give them away for free, I mean, it makes sense. That's a good use of taxpayer
Yeah.
dollars. Like, you won't ever hear somebody complaining about like, oh my God, the city's wasting money. They're fixing a pothole on my block.
Yeah.
Like, that makes no.
Yeah, exactly.
It's common sense.
And that's an aspect of the Democratic Republic, and where the bipartisan influence
Yeah.
definitely converges, and you need that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have one aspect or the other. And I feel like our system is the best to cultivate change.
Yeah.
Because it's democracy and it's a republic combined. It's a democratic republic. I don't think it belongs anywhere else in the world except for America.
Yeah.
And I think this is the greatest country that one can live in,
Of course.
and it has the most potential.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like right now we're just attacking ourselves, and instead of looking inwards and making change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you hear people say like, oh my God, like, we live in a fascist state, all this, oh my God, Trump's like an alt-right leader and all that stuff. It's like, you're saying that and you're living. You're able to say that and nothing will happen to you. There's
Mhm.
countries in the world where if you say that about your country,
You disappear.
you disappear,
Yeah.
never to be heard from again.
Mm-hmm.
You went to the store and never came back.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're able to say that, just you're proving yourself wrong
Yeah.
right there. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like you don't, such and such, the government's bad. Knock on the door and now you're dead.
Yeah.
There are countries in the world that are like that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So
Where like Putin wins 106%
yeah,
of the populace.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
yeah. Well, I mean, so what they do over there is you have elections. Obviously,
Mhm.
are they fair? Who knows?
Yeah.
But you have a president and then the prime minister, and they switch every 8 years.
So he's doing this footwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's moving back and forth.
That's it.
Isn't
Yeah.
that what Hitler did
That-
when he signed off as chancellor and then he became?
So believe it or not, which is crazy to sound, when Hitler first rose to power, it was all done by the book. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
craziest part.
He got a party instead. At first, he tried to throw him down, right?
Yeah.
Take over, and then he went to
Yep,
jail, wrote
yep,
Mein Kampf,
yep,
and then he
yep,
started over,
yep.
right?
That's the craziest thing is when you think Hitler, you're like, oh my God, like he must have come in and try and just taken power.
Uprising, yeah.
No, he was elected. He was the chancellor. He formed his own government, all that stuff, which was it's just crazy to hear. It's just crazy.
It's
to
a little bit
realize.
of foreshadowing, or maybe it's a little scary, because that just tells you that most people with bad intentions will play their cards right.
Of
And
course.
it's a game of chess, and like you
Yeah.
were saying the other day, is you got to play 5 moves ahead.
Yep.
And with Biden coming in right now, Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
she's the first female vice president, and she's black, and they said she has Asian descent. I'm not sure where from. But-
I know. I think her mother is an Indian lady, and I believe her father is African American. I could be wrong
it.
though. I haven't looked into too much of her.
No, first of all, I
demographics.
think it's very important. obviously for our youth, for
Yeah.
young girls
Yeah.
growing up to see that in power. Because usually when you think of the president or like you say doctor
Yeah.
or you say lawyer, what's the
Mhm.
first figure that pops up? It's usually a male.
Yeah. You say
Yeah.
he.
So they're changing the expectation. However, politics itself,
Mhm.
which I don't trust,
Yeah.
especially when you get all the way up to the top, because
Definitely.
both sides, I personally, I cannot defend Donald Trump
Yeah.
because I don't know the guy and I know he's involved in a world that's out of my influence, a sphere that I've never even delved in. And we're
Yeah.
talking about like whether it's the Clintons or Biden having connections here or Trump in that small circle with Epstein.
Yep.
They're all tied in.
Yep.
And it's like this little black hole that we know nothing about.
Yeah.
But it's finally getting exposed.
Yeah.
But there's been talk that Kamala plans on using the 25th
Yeah.
to push Biden out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at Biden, I understand he may have intent
Yeah.
in the right direction, but when you see cognitive decline and stuff like that, it's alarming. You know?
Yeah. It is. I mean, look, whether you whoever you support in this election, it's almost you look at this, you look at Joe Biden, you look at this guy, and at least me, I almost feel bad for him.
Mhm.
You know, I believe it was
I
a
feel like
couple.
he's a puppet.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. You know, you a couple of months ago he was in an interview and he was just rambling and he face palmed, and the reporter said, "Joe, you know, Mr. President, would you like to continue?" He says, "I think it's better off if I don't." President of the United States says that, can't even get out a sentence. I feel bad for him. It's like, you know, why would you want to? You know, being the president is probably the most stressful job ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if it was like anxiety?
Yeah, it's like, why would you? You know, why would you do that? I think he's like 78 years old. It's crazy. And what you said with the 25th Amendment, listen, I would not put it past. I would not put it past them. I would not put it past them.
that they're gonna try to squeeze him out. So for those who don't know, the 25th is when the mental capacity or for some
Correct.
reason they cannot. Well, if you wanna
The
say it.
president is like mentally unfit to be
Gotcha.
no longer the president. So.
Got you.
And I mean, if you look at it too, is before the election, Nancy Pelosi she said that the House of Representatives should be the deciding factor on whether the president is mentally unfit. And everybody said, "Oh, look, she's trying to get Donald Trump out of office again. They're gonna declare him mentally unfit. He's unhinged. You know, he's a tyrant. Blah 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 blah." But me personally, I don't think that was to get Donald Trump out.
You think it was planning ahead?
I think it was planning ahead, doing your chess piece moves, and possibility leaving
Waiting
the
for
door
them to fall in
open.
the trap.
Waiting for Joe Biden to get into office. Who knows? 2 years down the line. Oh, you know.
You think they would do that? We've seen that in politics before, like where they abandon their little
Yeah, of course.
piece in the front.
I mean, look, who knows? Who knows? You can't predict anything nowadays. You really can't.
yeah.
You really can't. I mean, look at this election. It's
You
no
also
matter.
can't have an opinion though.
Yeah, no, you can have opinion, but you can't predict anything because look what's going on right now. This is a time. I mean, as a history teacher, you got to sit back and say, "Holy God!" Like,
Yeah,
in
like how
10
do I
years-
teach these
Yeah,
kids?
how do I teach this?
What do I tell them?
Yeah. And I mean, as looking from a politics side, it's like, wow, like the country is so divided. Like our system is just the election system is so crazy. You know, I'm sitting there. Why aren't these people counting faster? You know, I'm sure
Mhm.
everybody was thinking that on election night. You have these states that are calling the election check mark, and then you have like states like, you know, Pennsylvania and Georgia and Nevada that are literally counting like this. I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like hurry up.
What about like the ballot drop off when there's just a big bag?
It's
and
crazy.
They won by that margin exactly.
Yeah,
You want to explain that?
it's nuts. So we live in a time that there's never been like this before with coronavirus and the election and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
you have multiple issues like how do you vote, you know, safely? How do you
Mhm.
vote in a safe manner that you're not going to contract the coronavirus?
Yeah.
So I mean, you had long lines at the polls. I mean, because people wanted to get on vote, but also think about it, you got to be 6 feet apart from
Yeah.
each other, so it looks longer than it is.
Mhm.
And you have people that don't feel comfortable going on votes. You vote absentee, voter by mail.
Yeah.
And I have a friend that works at the Board of Elections, and he said that there's so much like everything in the name of coronavirus, almost anything can go.
Got it.
It's like ballots that aren't even signed. You know, I can.
They're
let's-
late too, right?
Yeah, late. Let's say I live in an apartment building, and I could go pick up ballots for everybody,
Mhm.
fill them out, and send them in. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
You know, it should not be that way.
I
That's
heard
crazy.
about someone was talking about the New York Times,
Mm-hmm.
and this article came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how absentee ballots
Yeah.
are most likely and most probable to be altered.
Yeah.
Or they have the highest chance of being changed.
Yeah.
Obviously, because there's a third party.
Definitely.
When you're at the booth and you're pressing whatever you want to press and you're choosing,
Mhm.
it's a lot different than having a middleman deliver it for you.
Of course,
And there's potential, you know, it's
without a doubt.
not as authentic, but it doesn't apply now because New York Times, not that they rescinded their statement, but they're not going to enforce it as much because
liberal bias.
Exactly, because their candidate
Yeah, of
is
course.
approved. You know.
Of course. That goes back to, things we were talking about before. It's just there's no free and fair like news station. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's nobody that presents the facts and lets you decide. It's
Because you
all
really can't. It's
yeah.
really because it's honestly how the way you see it. It's
Yeah.
two different ideas.
No,
You know,
definitely.
completely.
It's just crazy. Like honestly, if you really want like if you watch C-SPAN, but that's so boring.
Mhm.
Watch the House of Representatives, watch Congress, but I mean, you can't do that. It's so boring. But now you got like Fox, CNN, everybody has an agenda, and it just sucks because you know you can literally have the same issue. Uh, Trump gets a haircut. Let's just say Trump gets a haircut, and you'll have CNN saying like Trump went to a racist barber. His barber was found, being racist, and then you'll have
His grandfather was an ex-Nazi.
yeah,
Right. Something
and
like
then you'll have Fox News that says like his barber is proven to be the best barber in the whole entire
that. Mhm.
world. Like
Or
he won best barber award.
yeah,
It's
Trump
like
is mingling with the people. He's doing something right.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
why is this even news? He's getting a haircut. Like,
Yeah.
I remember during the James Comey problem back in Trump's first year, there was a headline on CNN that said James Comey goes to the barber. I swear to God, and it's just like okay, like is
Yeah.
a news crew following me around when I go get a haircut? No. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. When there's no news, they just have to create things.
Yeah. I think it also circles back to what you were talking about before, like cutting the red bureaucratic tape,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is so much slower because of the bureaucracy.
Oh
And for
God.
those who don't know, bureaucracy is just like regulations upon regulations, and just it slows everything down like molasses.
100%.
And nothing gets through if you want it to get through, and everyone's stopping each other because they're affiliated with him or
Yep.
her, and vice versa.
Yep.
And I feel like it just stops a lot, but also mingling within your own people, which is why you said door to door was so effective.
Yeah.
You said was her last name Cortez, the lady who beat.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes.
Yes.
She beat Joe Crowley. Yeah.
And Crowley wasn't. He was complacent. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt,
He's
he's gonna
comfortable.
win. No problem.
And then she won because she figured out that the best way is to communicate, right?
Yeah. Of course.
Face to face. You got to cut the red bureaucratic tape,
Yeah.
and you got to
I mean,
socialize.
Who would you rather vote for? Somebody, putting politics aside, somebody that sits on a chair and never comes to see you,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody that within a matter of months knocked on your door 3 times and just asked, "Are you okay? What do you need done in this neighborhood? How can I help?" You're obviously gonna vote for them.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a simple
forget about
questions, yeah.
ideas. Yeah, it's just
Mhm.
simple stuff. And going back to the red bureaucratic tape, if you look at government in itself, and it's unfortunate to say it literally whenever you give a government a problem to solve, it doesn't solve it. I'm a big person on private
Mm-hmm.
enterprise.
Because more incentive.
Of course, like
Yeah.
when the government was handing out the $1,200 stimulus checks,
Mhm.
right? The government did it, the treasury did it. I was a fan of getting a private paycheck company like ADP. When you get a paycheck, ADP, they send out your check. And I think they could have done it more effectively because dead people were getting checks.
Mhm.
People, dead people getting it. Some people got 2 checks. There was tons of checks that the federal government said, yeah, we messed up, but honestly, it's not even worth, going after. Billions of dollars were lost, but it's not even worth going after. Billions of taxpayer dollars not
Yeah.
even going is after. If you would have contracted that out to, one of these paycheck companies, they would have got it right. You know what I mean? It's the government. It's just, it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely work that could be done.
Yeah.
But moving forward, as you were talking about, like people working together and you go house to house,
Mm-hmm.
do they have any way of projecting how that really helps, or like, is there any stats that can prove that helps more?
Well, I mean, I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but it definitely does. Many campaigns locally, nationally, you need money. You need to fundraise. You need TV commercials. You need to be on the radio, all that stuff. But locally, it's just all about. And I've been working in politics for around like 5 years now since I was in high school.
Nice.
And it's all about face to name. Because if you just say like, oh, Fred Darowitsch, nobody's gonna know who that is.
Mhm.
But if you see my face, okay, maybe they'll remember. But if you see them again, and you see them again, and they're all over Facebook at the community board meetings,
Mhm.
they're at Facebook at local ceremonies. They're asking the community questions like, hey guys, what can happen? What do you guys need done in your district? What do you need done? What's the main issue on Juniper Park? Oh, the grass needs to be cut. Okay, let me see what I could do.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's all about just face. It's all about name.
It's being there.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like almost
With them.
It's almost It's almost like we're on a ship and nobody's driving it right now. Nobody's steering the ship. Somebody needs to come and steer that ship.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
that's what it is. That's all it is.
I think it speaks to like the roots of leadership, and like in order to be a leader, you have to move with the pack.
Yep.
You don't lead, like you don't walk in front of them, you walk with them.
Yep,
Right?
100%.
And there's a really big difference right now. Don't worry, it's like in politics, like or just in general, people
Mhm.
think the leader is the person sitting at the top of the throne
Yeah.
or in a chair calling shots. And like most times, people don't listen to someone who's blabbing their mouth or just pointing fingers and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's a big issue that we have right now. And one of the biggest things when I was younger, my mother loves helping volunteer, so I was always involved in like volunteer work and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how effective or I'm not sure how involved Elizabeth Crowley was at the
Yeah.
time with setting it up. I do know that her name was associated
Yeah.
with the process of like I think this was after Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
We were at Atlas Mall. We were at Borders over there.
Okay.
Johnny Rocket sent in food for all the volunteers.
Mhm.
What we were doing is we were sending packages and it was like canned goods, stuff like that. We're also helping out other communities in certain ways that were affected by Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
And I think Elizabeth Crowley, she worked it all out.
Yeah.
And she got everyone to sign off, stuff like that.
Mhm.
She did her job.
Yeah.
The thing is, she showed up at the end, the
Yeah.
last second for a photo op.
That's it.
And we put in all the work. I'm not saying we wanted all the credit.
Yep.
But we did like everyone there, mothers and children, a lot of mothers,
Yep.
especially because I assume that they came with their kids because at that time school was canceled for like a
Mhm.
week.
Yeah, I remember.
And so I was there. My friends were there. Some of their mothers, a bunch of families, different friends, all
Mhm.
ages. And I'm talking about like from kindergarten through high school. We're
Yep.
helping out. And she came at the last second for a photo op.
Yeah.
And she was with us in the picture,
Of course,
leading us.
but she wasn't helping.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't a leader.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And most people assume like if I didn't see her as a leader, it's just because she's a woman.
Yeah.
But in my mind, my mother's a leader, you know?
Mhm. Of
And my
course.
mother did it with me.
Yeah.
And I respected that. And all the other people inside there that were helping out and leading the chaos, because at the time it was just a frenzy.
Yeah.
Everyone was everywhere and they calmed it down.
Yeah.
They worked it out and some people stepped up. And that shows real leadership. And I feel like if we could mirror that
Mhm.
into local politics and stuff like that.
Yep.
Especially in schools. Like I feel like Queens Metro didn't have something where they did Council for Unity. It's just being started now, I
Mhm.
should say, yeah. Basically what they do is St. Baldrick's. It's not a real saint,
Okay.
but I shaved my head last year.
Uh-huh.
I raised up to like $2,000. It was great.
I remember
shared it on
this. I
Facebook.
actually remember this.
Yeah. And what they're doing is Council for Unity is
Mhm.
they're combining communities and they're talking with kids from one neighborhood,
Mhm.
connecting them to another neighborhood. And
Yeah.
even though we live in New York City, you could be a mile away.
And
Huge
complete-
difference.
Yeah.
Different life.
Completely different.
Someone that lives in the Bronx compared to someone that lives in Staten Island
Mhm.
may have a completely different life.
Oh, of
different
course.
tastes, different aspects of living,
Different
you know?
values, everything.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like just connecting that through leadership in the school and having teachers like that, it's great. And you see our teachers are also insanely diverse.
Yep.
You have Jordan Haber, who's he lives in Long Island, he's a white male.
Yep.
He comes from I think German heritage or maybe Italian, stuff
Mhm.
like that. And then you have his name is forgetting his name right now. Damn. But he's an African American. He's leading the program.
Mhm.
He's doing an incredible job.
Yeah.
And what they do is they have kids from the other side of the school. Metro has 3 schools.
Yeah.
It's a middle school and a high school. Queens Metro itself.
Yep.
And there's another district, PS 1
I don't know.
129.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and the kids in the last school have special needs, and what they do is they mingle them.
Yep.
Because why should a kid with special needs never have to talk to the regular populace? Because
100%.
because he has to be catered to.
Mhm.
So they're mixing them together, and these kids that are working in this class,
Mhm.
they have to do a lot of community work. And outside of school, their homework is to just come up with ideas.
Yeah.
And new fundraisers, and they're doing that.
That's great.
And there's girls in my grade that are their one job in that class was to organize events.
Yeah.
And it was on social media, in person, announcements, going to another school, going on trips and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and working together. And I thought that was great, and that's
No,
a great idea that
that's-
should be carried forward.
I knew that you shaved your head, but I didn't know about the whole council for unity thing.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic idea. That's
Mhm.
great because the whole thing is getting the youth involved. That's the whole thing. Like I said, don't indoctrinate anybody, don't sway anybody into one thing. Getting the youth involved. That's the biggest thing. I remember being in AP US and Haber was my teacher, one of the best teachers I've ever had, if not
Yeah.
the best. And that was his big thing is get involved.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna tell you, me and him would have conversations on the side, me and him were close.
Yeah.
But that was his biggest thing is get involved. I don't care who you support. Get involved. It's better to get involved because people think it's like, oh, it's corny you say that, but there are people in countries that don't have the ability to get involved. They don't have the ability for free speech. They don't even have the ability to vote. Our founding fathers, fought for this right to get involved. It's voting is a right. It's a privilege. It just gets me upset when people just don't even get involved. Complain, but then don't go to the ballot box.
That's true.
If
That's true.
you didn't vote, don't complain. That's
Yeah.
the way you change things by voting.
That's a good point. And by the way, his name was Kyle. Kyle, if you're listening to this, I remembered. That was just a brief. I'm talking about
Oh,
the guy,
the
the
Council
African
for Unity
American.
guy?
Yeah, the guy who's in
Okay.
charge of it in Metro. And no, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think getting involved should be the title of this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Get involved.
Yeah, getting involved. No, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
no matter what it is. I mean, look, me and Massimo are having a conversation now. If one person goes out and says, you know what, I like what they're saying, and maybe I'm gonna vote next time. That's fantastic. Our job's accomplished.
Maybe I can get involved, or like
Yeah, maybe I can't. Maybe let me reach out to such and such office. Maybe there's a an advocacy program, or maybe there's a community outreach program that I could get involved in. Maybe I'll volunteer at Juniper Park and
yeah.
clean up the garbage.
Exactly.
something
When the
along those lines.
trees, when we had that little tornado or whatever happened, the hurricane winds,
Yep.
trees down everywhere. There was Boy Scout troops helping out. There was Girl Scout troops helping out. Great stuff. There was churches working around the community, picking up leaves. There was trees. Basically, what they were doing is the construction or the sanitation would come around,
Yeah.
and they had the shredder, and they put the trees
the
in.
big wood chipper.
Exactly,
The
but
orange
it wasn't
one.
organized for them. So what
Yeah.
people were doing is they were breaking up the trees themselves and lining them up on the curb
Yep.
or at the end of the park.
Yep.
So that way, once the people come with the wood chipper, they just pick it up, put it in instead of walking through the park, dragging it themselves. A small step can make the job a lot easier.
And you just said it right there. People did it.
Mhm.
Not Democrats, not Republicans,
Just people.
not conservatives,
Neighborhood
not liberals. People.
Yep.
A common sense thing. You can't fight after a tornado. You want to clean up the park. You walk down the street and say, "Oh, such and such. You want to clean up the park?" They're gonna say, "Of course." You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
You can't
That's-
rally all your Republicans and be like, guys, let's clean as Republicans, because
Yeah.
what that's doing, it's like almost passive aggressive. Like, look what our Republicans did.
Yeah, of course.
And to me, it's no, like, look at what the constituents did. Look, our people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our people. It's like when I go out with my friends, it's like I don't introduce anybody as like, oh, this is my Republican friend, this is my Democrat.
Oh, never.
Friend, this is my Italian friend, this is my African American friend, this
Yeah.
is my Jewish friend. No, these are my friends.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how they
Exactly.
come, who they are, these are my friends.
Yeah.
There's no titles on anything. These are my guys, and I'll do anything for them.
Exactly.
That's the whole
and
thing.
gals. you know.
And gals, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't really go out with a lot of girls. I have a girlfriend for 5+
Gotcha,
years,
gotcha.
so I don't really hang out with too many girls. But
I know what you're saying. No.
my guys, yeah,
Yeah, like when I look at my friends, and especially hanging out down here, I'll have like 13 to like 15,
yeah.
and it's the most diverse group.
Mhm.
You have, like, if you could have grown-ups, like in a real life situation, like with
Yeah.
Adam Sandler,
Mhm.
the rest of them, Chris Rock,
Yep.
that would literally be my friend group. Except they have one black kid in there. We have like 2 white kids,
Yep.
or like I'd say like 5 or 6, and the
Yeah.
rest is just mixed.
Definitely.
And it's so funny. You all pick on each other, and I feel like part of taking down that barrier of like polarization
Mhm.
and just being uncomfortable around each other, because it's just everyone believes that someone's gonna be so racist or they're prejudiced against them.
Yeah.
I feel like not teasing. Well, yeah, teasing.
Yeah.
But just being more comfortable around each other and saying how you really feel.
Of
you know?
course,
Yeah.
definitely. Because listen, you say how you really feel, nobody could say anything because that's your opinion. You know what I mean? As long as you're not in like citing violence or hate,
Yeah.
nobody can say anything. And that's the whole big thing, is that this whole like culture, this whole like politically correct and cancel culture is ridiculous. Where if you make one misstep, or if you say something minutely out of line, it's like you're done
Yeah.
forever. It's ridiculous. Like I'm sure in not just my friend group, not just your friend group, but all friend groups across the world, if you would go and listen to their conversation, you'll take one thing and you'll be like, wow, this guy's nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Like the PS4, like the party chats, you know.
oh my God, like
Yeah.
that's great. I can only imagine what they're doing.
There's only
with that
certain things you
recording.
could say behind closed doors. I know what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like having an opinion or just saying something that doesn't align with the status quo is it's so edgy nowadays.
course,
but it
yeah.
shouldn't be.
No,
It's-
it
you
should
can't.
not be.
I don't think there's such thing as a wrong opinion.
Yeah,
An opinion is personal.
definitely.
So you can't have a wrong opinion. It's
Yep.
just respect that opinion, maybe inform them, and as you could tell, like telling someone and just beating them down and trying to change their opinion is gonna do the opposite. Like if you want someone to comply with you, creating more diversion or just creating a sense of just discomfort and distrust is not gonna help.
No, I mean, that's the biggest thing is, look, listen,
Mhm.
agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Say, I understand your opinion. I think I'm correct. If you think you're correct, okay, that's it. Let's move on. That's the whole big thing is, no, everybody has to be right. And like you said, there's no right or wrong opinion. I mean, stats are factual things, they could be right and wrong. But opinions is, I think this is a nice shirt. You may not think it's a nice shirt. Okay.
That's something that you can move on from because it doesn't affect one person.
Yeah.
But let's say it affects one group entirely. So
Yeah.
let's say like with police brutality or systemic racism, you can't just agree to disagree at that point. You have to make some kind of move.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that like with something like police brutality, for example, it's like that's the whole thing of coming together and finding common ground, common solutions. Nobody's gonna agree on everything. I'm sure if you walk down the street, I know I keep using this analogy, and you say like, "Do you support police brutality?" Everybody's gonna say no. You know what I mean? Why would you support that? but it's just there's levels to everything. There's levels, and you can at least commonly say like, I don't support police brutality. I don't support bad cops. I don't support cops that use their badge for excessive force and stuff like that. So you can take your common ground and you can work off that. Obviously, there's going to be ends of the spectrums that don't agree. Like defund the police and not and supporting the police. Those are never going to agree. But you need to find common ground in every single situation. That's the biggest thing.
The one thing is like a lot of people, especially with social media now, is they speak for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you see these white female Democrats speaking for the black community.
Yeah.
And although they might be helping, because in order to get your message across, you need people from the other side to show that you're legitimate and that you're credible.
Yeah.
So if I make a statement about, let's say I have a certain preference or something like that, and or someone from another culture, like we have the same idea about something, getting someone from the other side to agree, or like let's say you're playing basketball, and it's me and you one-on-one, and the ball goes out, and I admit that it's your ball, there's no fight.
Yeah.
But if it's you fighting against me, it's my word against yours.
Of course.
It's not going to hold very well.
No,
you know?
not at
So
all.
basically, like when you have someone to agree, or like let's say like someone's making a case, and someone from the other side can come. Wait, I just lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
You were talking about basketball and how the case and
So the white Democrats speaking for black communities. So they went into Manhattan, Brooklyn, and I'm pretty sure the Bronx.
Yeah.
And they were asking the black folk, they were like, are you a Democrat?
Yeah.
Or do you hate police?
Yeah.
Or do you want to defund the police? Or do you want to abolish the police?
Yeah.
And the people were like, fuck no.
Yeah, of course.
I have children that go to school here. They walk to school every day. Sometimes they go out at night. They're coming home from basketball practice, or they have a recital or something like that, or they have late school. They're studying.
Yep.
I want my child to walk home safe. I want them to back and forth safe.
Of course.
Everything they have to do. I want them to ensure or just be confident that this neighborhood is looking after them.
Yep.
So no, I don't support that just abolishing, because that means someone could take advantage of my daughter.
Yeah.
And someone could do whatever they want.
And nobody will do that.
And no repercussions. And there's no help.
Yep.
And what do you do? Like the same people who say abolish the police are, who's the first person they call when they get robbed?
Yeah, the police.
The police.
Yeah.
Or there's a shooting, or they hear a sound, something that bothers them.
Yeah.
Who are they calling?
Yeah.
The police. A noise complaint. They're calling the police. But they're saying that they're gonna take care of the entire problem themselves.
It's the same people that say abolish the police that walk around with armed security guards.
Yeah.
All right. Get rid of your security guards.
Yeah. Let's see what you're really about, right?
Yeah. Walk around by yourself. If you feel that, abolish the police, they're tyrants, all this stuff. All right, get rid of your armed security guards.
Yeah.
Walk around and see if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they'll be fine. Not trying to incite violence on anybody, but
Yeah.
you can't preach. You have to practice what you preach. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous.
There's a lot of hypocrisy.
Oh my God, from top to bottom, with literally everything. It's crazy.
I feel like social media now, although it does hold you accountable, because you're a lot more conscious of what you're saying,
Of course.
and it could come back, it bite you in the ass in 20 years.
Yep.
There's good and bad to it, and everything in moderation.
Yep.
But the shitty part about it is that like you're so constrained.
Yep.
And you don't know what opinion to say, because in 10 years, an opinion that's relevant right now, or a statement that might hold true in 20 years will be seen as like, whoa, what the? Where are you going with this?
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I think that's why utilizing social media and learning it is so important, because it's such a good tool. But like you said, it can come bite you back in the ass, in a matter of time, and who knows today, a matter of days. But that's the whole big thing, is that as a candidate for something, if you're running for something, you have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you have all these things, LinkedIn as well, to get out to speak to the voter, when you can. And you just have to use that tool expertly. You have to use it so well. You have to use it to the T, because God forbid if you make one misstep, that's it. That's it. You're done. It's unfortunate.
Social media it's a risky game, because not only is it like taking over our lives. Like, do you get that alert on your phone?
Yeah.
Like 6 hours today or something like that?
What? Oh yeah, of course, with the
phone alert,
Yeah.
screen time.
Yeah.
Shit scares me, bro. It's taking over.
No, it's nuts. And I mean, what's the first thing you wake up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, 1:30 in the morning? What's the first thing? Oh, I gotta check Instagram. I gotta check Facebook.
Yep.
It's like that's the first thing. Like,
Check your messages, your alarm.
Oh, let me check my notifications. Like
You take it to the bowl with you.
Yep,
Right?
you take it everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
like if it's for work purposes, I get it, but literally people cannot go anywhere without their phone. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's
And you
the biggest
can't
thing.
you can't remove it. I feel like I want like a flip phone, but at the same time you need to be in touch socially. And
Of course.
that's the part that Instagram and Facebook and so like not really Snapchat, 'cause
Yeah.
it's more just like personalized.
Yeah, it's more personal
But
stuff.
it's other platforms like Instagram and Facebook where you really see what's going on in the world, but it's also your duty as a civilian and as a cognitive human being
Yeah.
to
be
make
in
a
touch.
decision, to be in touch, but to also differentiate what's realistic, what's biased, what's not.
Yep.
And one of the biggest issues I see is that it's like people can't differentiate, and they believe what the platform wants them to believe,
Yeah.
and they
Well,
become sheep.
that's
you
the
know?
big thing is like, who do you turn to? Who do you turn to for news? You know what I mean? Because everybody has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All your parents, your cousins, your aunts, uncles, the news sources. Everybody has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All the papers. One of my favorite papers is the Wall Street Journal. I think it's great. It presents facts from both sides, has op-eds, and it tells you how it is. It doesn't necessarily put his 2 cents in all the time, but that when you got things like the New York Times where it's like you already know what the article's going to be like. You got things like the New York Post where you know what the article's going to be like. Things like the Washington Post where you already know the liberal slant is ridiculous. So that's the whole thing is like, where do you turn to for news? Not to toot my own horn, but a lot of my friends come to me and say, what do you think about this? And I give them to them straight. I say, look, such and such, it could be this way, it could be this way.
Mhm.
Now it's for you to decide. So it's just like, who do you turn to
Yeah.
for these for news that in a fair, fashioned way?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I was thinking, like, when's the last time one of those articles posted something about Trump that was positive? Like,
I mean, in the Wall
he
Street
stopped
Journal,
several wars
yeah,
from happening.
in the Wall Street Journal, they give him credit and they bash him when they need to.
Mhm.
So I respect that, but I can't think of one thing in the New York Post or in the New York Times. The Post is pro Trump. The Times is against him. I can't think of any one time them crossing party lines, and it's unfortunate. It
Mhm.
really is. It really is
The
unfortunate.
thing about facts is that people say the facts don't lie,
Mm-hmm.
but the person collecting the facts,
Yeah.
see, the numbers are legitimate.
Yeah.
But it's the numbers that you choose to use.
And the context behind them.
Exactly. And the way that you distribute it.
Yeah.
It's way different than being received.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
But you can.
Well, I mean, you have something going on right now where in New York City where with the cops, it's like, well, not with the cops, but the crime stats,
Mhm.
Like let's say it's called cooking the books. Like let's say crime is down. Is it really down? Or is they just
Underreported.
stop reporting it?
Got it.
Are they changing, felonies to misdemeanors? You know what I mean? Are they not
Exactly.
doing these things so the numbers can look better?
So that's why they're saying that the black on black crime rate is so high because
Yeah.
it's heavily reported on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more police presence in black neighborhoods.
Yes.
And maybe that's contributing. Well, it definitely is. I think there's definitely a link between that.
Yeah.
If you have more people, let's say like as a little kid, all I did was fuck around.
Mhm.
If my mother was with me the entire time,
Yeah.
maybe those numbers would have been like, maybe I would have been a lot more of a troublemaker
Mm-hmm.
per se in like a social atmosphere. Like maybe kids wouldn't have trusted me more
Yeah.
if I got caught
Yeah.
doing all the stupid things I did.
Yeah.
Or maybe around a certain presence like my mother, maybe I learned how to like calm down and control myself.
Yeah.
So there you have a difference between like are they there to control or are they there to just
Police.
exactly, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the golden question, That's the golden question that, no one will have an answer to in a perfect world. They're there to just serve and protect. But look,
Yeah.
you got these cops that are, cowboys that want to,
Cavaliers, right?
they want to go out and solve the world's problems. And I'm sure every veteran cop will tell you that it does not work like that.
Yeah, and when you try to be a hero,
Yeah.
it doesn't work out.
It does not work. There's a movie, Brooklyn's Finest. It's
Is it a TV show?
no, it's a movie. It's really good. It's a good movie.
Is that about cops?
Yeah, it's about cops in Brooklyn and three different. It's about a cop that has a family that he's not making enough money, a cop that's about to retire, and a cop that's undercover and wants to make detective. And the veteran cop he's about to retire, but his commanding officer says like, okay, look, he's a rookie cop. I want him to ride along with you.
Mhm.
Says okay. And this guy, like this rookie cop, tries to like save the world, gets involved in every single situation, gets involved in every. He sees an argument on the street, he gets involved in, and the veteran cop's like, "Yo, you need to relax. You
Mhm.
can't get involved in this stuff because you're gonna end up getting hurt." Lo and behold, like in the movie, like 20 minutes later, the guy dies.
Wow.
Yeah, he got shot. You got these cops that want to be cowboys, but most of them are good people. Most of them want to serve and protect. You can't judge. You can't judge all fruit when it's not ripe.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
I got you. And I feel like there's a big issue with that.
No,
especially
definitely.
nowadays, is because people take it upon themselves to educate the masses, or they take it upon themselves to change what's going on. And when you have someone crossing states with firearms and he's going to a rally with a gun,
Yeah.
is he not increasing the chances or the likeliness that someone's gonna get shot?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is he aggravating the situation, or is he what's the word? Not aggravating, but
Inciting.
exactly, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's increasing the odds. If someone is crossing state lines and especially going to a protest
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to help,
Yeah.
quote unquote,
Yeah.
and they have an AR-15 or something
Mhm.
like that, I honestly don't trust that his intent was just to help.
Of course.
you know.
Well, that's the
And
whole
then people
thing.
died because of that.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. It goes back to common sense and love and hate. With like for example, let's just use guns for example.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take all your guns. Guns shouldn't be even in the country, or I love my guns. Get your hands off my bazooka. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
hypothetical.
And then they
not a
have like all
bazooka,
their
but-
attachments, and they're just showing off what they
Exactly.
can do.
It's
Yeah.
like, hey, what about a middle ground? What about a middle ground? You know, listen, uh, you're allowed to have guns to protect yourself. You're allowed to
Mhm.
have guns to
It's
hunt.
about the
You're allowed
principle, really.
yeah, you're allowed to have guns to,
Mhm.
protect yourself, to hunt, to do things, all that stuff. But nobody's saying you need like an RPG in your house.
Mhm.
Like it's ridiculous. You're not gonna fight like a foreign war from
Yeah.
Connecticut.
The issue is that they feel like it's gonna recircle again. What we
Yeah.
had with the Revolutionary War, where
Yeah.
the government tries to take away your power,
hmm
and in all the times any dictator took over, like Hitler,
Yeah,
they took away the arms of the people.
of course that's how it
You have
starts.
to disarm the people,
That's how
and
it
then
starts.
they won't revolt.
Yeah.
And the reason why a lot of Republicans vote against the gun laws and the gun regulations is because they feel like it's rescinding their power or their say.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there's a lot of them that don't make a great case for themselves
Yeah.
when they're just posting these guns and all they do is shoot everything
Yeah.
all day. There's gun lovers, and
Yeah.
if they want to love guns and they're just at a range,
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah.
It's their life, it's not mine.
Yeah.
But I think it just stands for more of a principle
hmm
that if you take away this symbolic item,
Yeah.
then not that there's going to be chaos, but it's building the steps
Yeah,
to less power for the
definitely.
individual.
And it's a principle as well. I mean,
Mhm.
like you're taking away this. What's next?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
there's been a lot of things said like Russia would never like invade, the United States. Why? Because too many people own guns. Imagine this. Imagine, God forbid, like a foreign invader comes to the United States with an army, put boots on the ground, and tries to invade us. You have every city's police. Every city's police. You have the
National
army.
Guard.
You have the National Guard. You
Local
have
militia.
you have like local cops. You have the Bloods, the Crips, like all these gangs that have guns. You have,
You saw that during the riots. Like people with guns,
Mhm.
especially in New York, and
Yeah.
they weren't hiding it.
yeah,
They're like, if you come to my store, I'm gonna protect
Yeah.
my ground. And that's really like not what's the word? It's kind of like just like protecting your stuff.
of
you know
course,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
of
I'm
course.
forgetting the word right now.
But imagine all those forces. Like, imagine everybody in the United States forgets about their differences. Everybody that owns guns in the United States comes together and
Mhm.
like would defend against the foreign invader. It'd get creamed. They'd
Yeah.
demolish them.
except they're gonna fight with like nukes and stuff. Like
Oh
that.
yeah, of course. It'll never happen again. It'll never be another.
I feel like if they ever-
conventional war.
I feel like war is a cyber war now. It was like, remember Russia when they were posting these fake articles and
Yeah, or
they were swaying the
with,
masses?
China with Sony.
Yeah.
Korea with Sony.
Yes.
Listen, that's why like my parents, my grandparents would say, oh, we're gonna, war is like on my mind. Like, yes, but there'll never be another war like World War II. There'll never be another war.
Think so?
I don't think so.
It's
no.
too high stakes now. I feel like
That's it.
we'd be able to just leverage up to the big guns so quickly
Yep.
that having soldiers is more of like we still need soldiers.
Yeah, of
and I think
course.
there's
Oh,
still
no, without a
jobs.
doubt.
You definitely need
Yeah.
boots on the ground.
Definitely.
But that's for more of like small operations.
Yep.
Taking care. But
Definitely.
right now, if you want to occupy an area,
Yeah.
it's definitely still manned.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of war, it's just gonna be like
Well, I think
it's like a Mexican standoff. You know?
Yeah.
It's just holding a gun at each other. And like,
brinkmanship.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's like I think somewhere it said, I don't know if one of like the prophets said it, like Nostradamus or something,
Mhm.
but like he said like World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones because World War III will bring us back to the Stone Age. And that's so unfortunate. I mean, if you look at like radiation, if you look at like nuclear weapons and
Mhm.
nuclear everything, it's so dangerous. Like if you look at Chernobyl,
Yeah, I was just
It's-
thinking of that.
it's like so crazy.
No
like,
one's been there in 100 years. If you look at it, it looks like
yeah,
the 20s.
yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, when is Frank Sinatra coming out? No, it's not that old.
No, but I mean, you look at this stuff and it's just like, oh my god, like people were burned like from the inside out. And if you're like close enough to like, God forbid, a nuclear bomb, you'll just evaporate. Like, imagine just turning into dust. Like,
So how does that differentiate from Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
okay, so
One was a power plant, the other one was a bomb, right?
well, no, both were.
Chernobyl was
Chernobyl is a power plant.
Power
It was a
plant.
nuclear power plant.
got it.
Um,
And Nagasaki and Hiroshima were bombs.
yes, correct. Yeah,
Fat Man and
little boy.
Fat Boy and Little Man.
Fat man, little. Yeah, you had it right. Yeah.
Fat Boy, Little Man.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
it. So the things is that now our nuclear weapons are 100 times stronger.
Yeah.
Because they're hydrogen bombs. They're not atom bombs.
Yeah.
Those bombs were splitting an atom and causing a reaction. It's like you split it. Like let's say you have an atom and you split it and it keeps splitting and splitting and splitting,
Mhm.
and that's what causes the explosion. I think. Don't quote me if
It's accurate.
I'm not a scientist.
Generally, yeah.
But a hydrogen bomb is like 100 times stronger. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
just like complete and total destruction. And what people don't think is like, let's say a bomb, God forbid, falls on Middle Village. Okay, boom. Like it's a regular bomb. Nothing else is gonna change.
Mhm.
A nuclear bomb, it falls, it creates huge impact, but then that radiation is in the air, so it travels with the wind. So now you may have things in New Jersey, you may have things in Connecticut, you may have things in Ohio because the radiation's in the air, it travels with the wind,
Hmm.
miles away, things are going to be affected. So like you never know what can happen. When they were testing in Nevada these nuclear weapons when they first started, all funky shit was happening to like cows and all that stuff
And
because
people that were working there were talking about experiences, and they're like, I can't. Like some of them have deformities,
hmm
and they talk about it. It's
yeah,
nuts. Yeah.
yeah, that's why listen, you know, I guess now it's a necessary evil to
Hmm.
have these weapons, but they are truly weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Because let's say, God forbid, if something happens, in Russia or China, it's like, guys, I'm sorry, but we had a nuclear accident. There's a nuclear weapon. There's a nuclear missile coming your way. It's too late to stop. What is the United States gonna do? Like, ah, shit. Okay, no problem. Like, odds are you're probably gonna be like, no, we're gonna send something your way.
What if it explodes in the atmosphere
Yeah,
and they stop it up there, even though it's above us?
yeah. Well, I mean,
Like,
it'll be a lot better, but it'd be a lot better, but
yeah,
if it
those
hits
radioactive zones. How long does it last for? Like,
thousands of years.
shit.
Listen, when we these nuclear cores, we store them in like huge mountains, and in every single language, it says like, "Do not come
Really?
here." Yeah, in Spanish, every single language.
So what do you mean? We like shelve them in a mountain?
Well,
Those
yes,
bombs?
yes.
Wow.
So not the bombs, the like nuclear core and nuclear reactor of like energy plants. It's because these rods needs to be changed, eventually. Or all these places that we tested the nuclear bombs in the mountains in like Nevada and stuff.
Hmm.
Like you can't go there. You know what I mean? Like because you'll just get like fucked up.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Look at all like the shit that happens to people
Mm-hmm.
when they're around it.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
It's really insane.
We're eventually gonna come to that. I mean, like Earth is being tired out. It depends what you believe in, though.
Unfortunately.
Do you believe in like? Do you have hope? Hope is a big thing. Like,
Yeah.
do you hope that America or just the world itself can become green again?
Well,
Like
I
with the
mean,
turtles in the forests.
look, the whole thing is that like the country was man put the man not necessarily ruin the world, but did everything to it because it was
Mhm.
uninhabited, it was untouched. uh do I ever think we'll become grim again? No. I mean, look what you need cars, like not everybody's gonna have a hybrid car, like let's be honest.
Do you think we can move to like we could shift in a way where everyone has one?
I don't think so. No,
No.
I don't think so, because you're always gonna have that's the whole thing about rights. You know what I mean? Like, who's the government to tell you what kind of car you have to buy? You know what I mean? Like, who's the government to tell you that you have to buy a Tesla or?
Do you think that's a
Prius?
mandate where? All right, yes, for expense reasons, I understand.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to preference and interfering with the atmosphere and stuff
Mhm.
like that, do you think that's a mandate that they should allow? So let's say like they figure out there's more statistics that conclude that gas cars
Yeah.
are way worse for the environment, which
Yeah.
we know, than a hybrid.
Mhm.
Can they mandate that? Do you think they should mandate that?
No, no,
No?
because I mean, think about it this way too. I seen a meme the other day. It was a solar. It was a soul. It was one of those wind turbine things. You've
Mhm.
probably seen them, and they were covered in like dirt and dust. So what they have to do, they had to go in a helicopter and clean it. How's the helicopter being powered? Gas.
Mhm.
So I mean, it all comes back to you're going to be using something like the electricity. The electricity you use to charge the car, the electric plant, like eventually the electric plant is going to be powered by some way that's going to hurt the environment. You can't entirely, go green. You
Yeah,
can't.
there's no perfect answer. you know?
Yeah, there really isn't. There really isn't.
It's really hard mingling in that little space, the area in between, the
Mhm.
gray area. 'Cause
Yeah.
you don't know what to do.
That's the whole thing too, is because like nobody's like, I know I'm not a scientist, so I can't give you the specific facts and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
mean, look, you see the exhaust of cars, the big smoke plumes coming from factories. It can't be good for the environment. Like it can't be good, but nobody knows like how bad it is. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
no, you can't come up with a definitive answer. And
Yeah.
half the scientists are probably 100% for climate change and all that stuff and the environment, and half are probably on the payroll of like the Koch brothers or something, and they say no, climate change doesn't exist. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I do agree with that because Trump seems to deny climate change in
Yeah.
every aspect or
Yeah.
every sense of the word.
Yeah.
I definitely see, like, especially I'm taking ecology right now, and I see that the climate change is way different than, let's say, 30 years ago. The
Yeah.
projection of how the forests are responding, or
Mhm.
whether it's like, so that we had this one thing I forgot what it's called. But basically, like you study the butterfly,
Yeah.
and then you study the pollination of the flowers,
Mhm.
and there's a word for when they're in sync.
Yeah.
And right now they're completely off, and
Yeah.
it's destroying ecosystems, and the food webs
Yeah.
are all out of whack.
Yeah.
And you see the polar bears and the ice melting,
Of
and the
course,
caps and all
yeah,
that shit.
definitely.
And then we have a president who just denies its existence. And I
Yeah.
understand some people may have an agenda
Yeah.
to push the natural narrative, right?
Mhm.
That we need to go fully green,
Yeah.
but then just denying it completely, I think is just nonsense. You
Yeah.
know?
No, definitely. Well, when it comes to climate change, I mean, there's no denying it that the climate is changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that climate change is a statement in itself. Climate change, like the climate is changing. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's hot at weird times. It's warm at it's cool at weird times. You know, climate change is a thing. Why is it changing? You know, climate change is a statement. Why is it changing? That should be debated.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, like I said, this exhaust from the cars, you know, the big smoke plumes from factories and stuff, you know, that's common sense. It can't be good for the environment. Like the
Mm-hmm.
environment's not like, oh yes, I love this smoke. You know, I
Yeah.
love burning up the ozone. Like it can't be. But that's the whole thing is like, you know, where does it stop? When does it get enough is enough? That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. And I mean, I can't say. I don't know.
I just think educating people and making them more aware of their
Mhm.
impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't believe there's an illegal human being.
Yeah.
I understand that like we occupy this area that we
Mhm.
now call America.
Yeah.
But the natives, I think they had it 100% correct. It was
Yeah.
green light.
Yeah.
And this is our land. This is your land.
Yeah.
It's not my land.
No.
You know, it's ours.
Yep.
And the earth provides. And you should be thankful.
Yeah.
And the resources they use, I love the minimalist idea.
Yeah.
When you use everything you can,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't need more.
Yeah.
Like most people, like when they get an inch, they want 9.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
Well,
And-
listen, I tell you one thing about when it comes to climate change. I hate the plastic bag ban. That's
Why?
because like I just
I feel like they're manufacturing more paper now. Is that like with the paper straws?
I
Do you
hate
think that was
that too.
counterintuitive?
I mean, even like from like a let's say just leave climate change out of it. Like by the time you're done with your soda or whatever you're drinking, the straw's all crumpled up
Mhm.
and it's all messed up. And the same thing with like the plastic bags. Like what happens if you have a lot of goods? The bag's gonna like a paper bag's gonna break.
Reusable bags. What I use
Yeah,
for Costco.
those are true.
I
Yeah.
have one bag that I use
Mhm.
10 trips from the car.
Yeah,
I do one trip.
yeah.
I never.
I'm
do,
a one tripper too.
Oh hell yeah!
I can't stand
Around
that.
my neck.
Yeah,
around my arm.
bro, everything like literally just like that. Like, I cannot stand
Yeah.
the multiple trippers.
And I was like, "Mas, you fine?" And
Yeah.
I'm like barely making it up the
Mhm.
steps.
I used to
but I'm
have
going.
when the plastic bands were. I used to have like marks
Oh,
on
hell
like,
yeah.
my forearm from carrying all these bags.
Yep.
Everyone was like, "Just put it down, make
There's
your
like 4
trips."
different spots, like
Yep.
the elbow crease,
Mhm.
the forearm,
Yep.
the wrist, and the hand.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
how you
like,
maximize.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
absolutely not. There's
Mhm.
nothing more embarrassing and like just annoying than going out for
It's
a second
diminishing
trip.
to your pride to
Mhm.
have to do 2
Yeah.
trips. You know.
Definitely.
So I'll close the door with my nose. like, deeper.
Yeah, with your foot, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
did the other day. I sat on someone's hood and I
Mhm.
closed it with my foot.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "You could have just put the bag down
Mhm.
and
I
like
hate
settled it."
I hate it. Oh my god, I hate the multiple trippers.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a great solution. I carry that in my car wherever.
Yeah.
A lot of them have this little fridge kind of thing. It's like a lunchbox.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
looks
from
like tin foil
insulation.
inside. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's several different types of that. Where you have the regular bag, which
Yeah.
is like an IKEA bag.
Yeah.
And
I
it does
mean,
everything.
Yeah. No, that I understand the reusable bags, but I just think the plastic was so much easier. It was so much easier. But the thing with plastic is that it never disintegrates or anything like that.
Or like, aren't some of them like a million years?
Yeah.
They say.
You can bury a Coke bottle in the ground and it'll be there in 500 years. It never because it's a man-made product.
Yeah.
It won't disintegrate.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. That's why people say it's terrible. And plus, half the time it ends up in the ocean in like an animal's mouth or some shit like that.
Mhm.
I mean, listen, it is what
Scary.
it
Yeah.
is.
Watching that happen because for me, I love nature.
Yeah.
Like going camping is my shit. And I
Mhm.
love just observing. I could watch Nat Geo Wild.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just have it on silent and I'll do homework.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll catch myself just sitting here. I'll watch polar bears and
Yeah.
penguins interact.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll just watch seals. Or I'll watch an orangutan eat berries
Yeah.
and just like spit them out.
Mhm.
Like something boring as hell. It's just so interesting. And,
Yeah.
like, you feel for them. And they say that animals don't have this emotional capacity.
They
I
definitely
think it's
do.
bullshit. Like
Yeah.
you watch an elephant kill itself.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Because it refuses to eat
Mm-hmm.
because it lost its mother.
Yeah.
And especially when it has to do with poaching, that fucking hurts, bro.
Yeah.
Just to watch, or you watch a rhino without a horn,
Yeah.
and it's on the floor and it's just dying. And
Definitely.
You know it's not gonna survive.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Like
Yeah.
poaching is just it's senseless. There's
Yeah.
no emotion in the people who do that.
I agree 100%. I mean, like, look, I get it. Like, let's say if you shoot a deer and you're gonna eat the meat, okay, I understand. I mean, you need to eat, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe unfortunately you're not able to go food shopping and you need to kill your food to eat it. I mean, that's the only
In
way you
some
eat.
cases.
Yeah, in some cases, but like, yeah, with the whole like killing just to kill, like trophy hunting and stuff like that, like,
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I'm not a biggest fan. I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of that.
Yeah, the one thing I heard though, Joe Rogan was talking about is like I know someone and I'd love to have him talk. That's actually a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
What he did is he worked with these national. It was basically they're regulating these species. So let's say he was in Africa.
Yeah.
Heli hunting. Heli hunting is when you're in a helicopter with a sniper.
Yeah.
And he's taking out a hippo, or he's taking out a giraffe.
That's
or
insane.
He's taking out. But only reason why they would do this thing is because there's an older male breed
Mhm.
that's killing the young.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I
it's
understand that.
affecting the future population. So there was
Yeah.
this one giraffe that was rabid,
Mhm.
and it was killing a lot of the young. And the thing about giraffes when they get older, it's really cool, and it doesn't happen often. They turn black.
Really? I didn't even know that.
So like, you know how right now they have like a brown and white in between?
Yeah.
The white stays, but the
Mhm.
brown patches become like black,
Oh, that's awesome.
and like in between there's like some red.
wow.
Dude, they look baller.
That's
so
crazy.
basically, but it's like unfortunate he had to kill it, and
Mhm.
he was telling me that like when they do these things, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And it's not ethical sometimes because
Mhm.
you have to let nature regulate itself.
Yeah.
Part of the lion
Survival
pride
of the
is
fittest.
exactly the lion pride. Like as soon as a lion takes over or it claims a new pride, it kills all the young of the last
Yeah.
alpha that was there because
Yeah.
now they're in power.
Yeah.
And I'm setting the precedent
Definitely.
by letting my offspring take over. And
Yeah.
hopefully that's how they continue to do exactly what the father did, you know?
Yeah.
And but there's a difference between interfering with nature and trying to ensure,
Mhm.
but also like every time we add ourselves into the situation, there's almost always going to be a negative.
Yeah. Well,
be
of
negative.
course, human interference sucks. No matter
Yeah.
what we get involved in, I mean, it may be better for us, but somebody else
Yeah,
is
we
always
fuck
gonna have to
everything
pay
up.
the price.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing.
It's kind of selfish though, but what that guy does is great. And I know I just think it's interesting.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I never even heard of that. Heli
Yeah.
hunting.
He was telling me that they were in the
Crazy.
caravan, and one of the guys that went outside, like one of their national, I don't know if he was like a geographer or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
but they went outside and he left the RV,
Mhm.
and next thing you know, he's like a mile away, and his intestines, just this square below the ribs, gone,
Wow.
gone. And one thing they do over there is when lions get the taste of human meat,
Yeah.
they're gonna keep coming back.
Oh, I could imagine.
It's like bears,
Mhm.
because sometimes bears are just curious, very
Yeah.
curious. The same
Yeah.
with lions.
Yeah.
And once they taste the human meat, they're gonna keep going. So they attack villages, and lions
Yeah.
are taking out kids
Yeah.
and shit like that. So what they had to do is they had to take down this lion, and the guy left, and the lion was waiting for him.
Yeah.
Dragged him away, intestines are gone. It was like a surgical
God.
cut. This is the way he described it. He said it was like surgically.
Yeah.
removed. I thought it was great. I thought that was a cool story, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, he has to kill a lion.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know people who hunt, and at the same time, when they do hunt, they don't keep the body,
Mm-hmm.
or if they do, they hang it on the wall.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm iffy about that. I think it's like maybe aesthetically pleasing because you get to look at it.
Yeah.
But for me, if the person hunting is going to kill that animal, I think they should definitely use each part of it. And for one, I love raw meat. Like if I could become carnivore, just completely meat,
Mhm.
I would. But obviously,
Yeah.
it's nonsensical.
I know.
No,
There's nothing better than a good steak.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
It's
my
like,
God.
like red elk meat has
Oh,
natural
I
testosterone.
actually never had elk. I never had elk.
I haven't either, but apparently there has like higher testosterone levels because
Really?
the animal itself is producing like
Hmm.
levels higher.
Start eating it
apparently.
now.
I know,
Get
yeah.
my test up.
I just think it's cool because when you appreciate a meal,
Yeah.
and you really work through every step of the process,
Yeah.
you enjoy it that much more. You thank the animal.
Of course.
If I'm gonna kill an animal, I'm gonna be way more appreciative because it's a life that was lost.
Yeah.
But also going fully vegan
Yeah.
is not
Oh
optimal.
my God.
It's not in terms of nutrition. I mean, like I have some chub right now, but I mean, like I'm not the perfect health expert or
Yeah.
guru, and I'm definitely not following all the regimen I should because I cheat on my meals and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I feel like going fully vegan, they replace a lot of the nutrients you need with
Yeah.
a lot of shit. And a lot of
Yeah.
times they have this mass agriculture
Mm-hmm.
where we're gonna go fully agricultural. That's terrible for the
Yeah.
environment.
No, definitely. Of
I heard
course.
about that. Yeah, and a lot of times like when you're eating these grains, there's like rabbit and there's mice and there's field, there's cat and
Definitely.
everything grinded up because these machines they just rumble
Yeah.
and rumble and they
Yeah.
destroy the ecosystem because the dirt is being reused and it's no longer rich.
Mm-hmm.
And it's recycled old dirt. It's dry.
Yep.
There's no volume to it.
Yep.
It's not. There's no water. It's disgusting.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm no farmer, but that's the thing they say is that if you're gonna run a successful farm, it's like every 4 or 5 years you have to change the crop that you
Mhm.
that you grow because each crop obviously has a different effect on the dirt. So like, let's say you're like I don't know, like producing like corn or something,
Mhm.
and then like 5 years from later you should try to like do carrots because it like
I didn't know
affects,
that.
yeah, it affects the dirt in a different way. So like there'll be different nutrients that the corn would need than the carrots. So that's the whole thing with like the crop like rotation and stuff.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Oh, the crop rotation. All right. So when I was thinking about that, because I've used that term before in school,
Mhm.
but the crop rotation I was thinking about is like not the Mayans, but
Yeah.
early agriculture in America, like the
Yeah,
colonies
colonization.
and stuff like that. Yeah, they were talking about basically like you just have to move around
Mm-hmm.
the patches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now I realize that so you could actually switch.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
and it
definitely.
helps. It helps with the soil. It reacts well.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Have
is
they
this-
proven this?
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, look, like I said, I'm no farmer, but that's from what I understand is that, if you continuously grow one thing in the same spot the whole entire time,
Mm-hmm.
the soil is going to give out. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you wear a pair of sweatpants just for years and years, obviously the elastic is going to wear out. So just picture that as the dirt. But if you change,
Yeah.
carrots may need, something else from the dirt than corn would need, from a cornfield. Or,
Mhm.
that's a bad example because carrots are different than corn. But
No, I get what you're saying.
yeah,
Though.
but if you switch it up, from what I understand,
It's maintenance.
yeah, exactly.
Replacing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that applies to all walks of life.
Yeah, definitely.
Got to maintain.
Everything in moderation is good.
You got to regroup. Exactly. Reassess and change it out.
Definitely. Definitely.
I think it's a good point. Did you wanna end here?
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
All right. Thank you for coming along, Fred.
Of course.
Guys, Fred Darowitsch, live in the
guys?
flesh.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you for coming along, brother.
Of course.
Oh.
Oh man, that was good. That was awesome.
I think we recorded 45 minutes. Fuck.
There was more.
I think we were going for longer than that.
I don't even know.
It's 12. It's literally 12 o'clock right now.